What a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. How are you? It's game day on Sports 1440 Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. As always, the Jason Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca, where you can get in the game. Whether you want to do some MLB playoffs, 4 games again today as the road teams went 3-1 yesterday. The Padres, the only home team to get a victory as they continue to roll, the hottest team in baseball since the All-Star break. The Astros and Tigers, pretty much a must-win. Well, not pretty much. It is a must-win game tonight for the Astros this afternoon if they want to extend it to 3. Otherwise, Detroit will move on to round 2. You've got NFL tomorrow. NHL officially gets going on Friday. Buffalo and New Jersey. They'll play Friday, Saturday in Europe. And then the NHL puck drops 6 days. Next Tuesday, a week today, the Oilers will be at home to take on the Winnipeg Jets. The Oilers flew to Seattle today where they will play their second final preseason game. Praise Jesus on that one. If you're a religious person, you're thankful that preseason is almost over. Although tonight, this is Seattle's final preseason game. And they're going with pretty much an NHL roster. Ty Carty is banged up, but other than that, it's pretty much all their guys. So the Oilers, who are going with pretty close to an NHL roster. Same thing. Darnell Nurse will make his preseason debut. The Oilers lines tonight, based on the fact that the players who didn't skate this morning aren't playing tonight. And so that was Corey Perry, Vasily Podkolzin, Ty Emberson, Troy Stetcher, Calvin Pickard. Now, Raphael Lavoie wasn't on the ice. He hasn't skated the last few days, so I'm guessing that he's also not playing. So that would leave McDavid centering Hyman and Nugent-Hopkins, Draisaitl with Skinner and Arvidsson, Henrique with Connor Brown and Janmark. Then you have Philp between Derek Ryan on the right side and Drake Caggiula on the left. Defense, Ekholm and Bouchard. And so there's Nurse and Kulak on the left side and Dermott and Josh Brown on the right. I'm going to guess that Dermott's going to play with Nurse. Now, I know before everybody texts in, I don't know the answer because I know what your question is. I don't think it's a fair question. But I don't 100% know the answer as to why Emberson isn't playing with Nurse tonight. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess the fact that Emberson and Nurse aren't playing together suggests to me that they think Nurse is going to play again on Friday, and then him and Emberson will play there. So, but that, again, is just more of an educated guess. It's not 100%. So, we'll see. Either way, Oilers line up there. The Kraken will have predominantly NHLers. Beniers will center Eberle and McCann. You'll have Stevenson, free agent signing with Burakovsky and Schwartz. Shane Wright, not former, but the 4th overall pick a few years ago with Bjorkstrand and Tolvanen, Gord with Winterton and Tanev, Dutton Larson, Alexiak Montour, Evans and Borgen, and then Grubauer likely to get the start in goal tonight for the Kraken. Him and Joy Decord, although I will say this. Like Joy Decord's numbers last year were really, really good. You could make a strong argument that he's the number 1 in Seattle. So we'll see. Like if you look at Seattle's roster, they got, hey, you know what? There's some good NHL players. Larson, Montour, Dunn, Alexiak. I like Borgen. Riker Evans, good young defenseman. Solid. Forward group, Beniers, Stevenson, Wright, Gord. Decent centers. McCann, Schwartz, Tolvanen, and Tanev. All proven NHLers, left wingers. Eberle, Burakovsky, Bjorkstrand, and Winterton. Now, Winterton is in. As I mentioned, Ty Carty is maintenance days banged up. I'm not sure if Winterton will make it or not. Young guy. First year pro last year. He's 21 years of age. He might go back down to the minors. The problem for Seattle is they've got a lot of NHL players. They don't got any drivers. Like, who's the difference maker there? Is Matty Beniers going to be like 57 point season? Okay. But then he had 37 points last year. So what is he, a 47-point player? Making 7 sheets. They're probably hoping he's going to be more than that. Like, he's got to become a 70-point player for that to work out. But I love the equation for offensive players. You know what? Yeah, you're a $7 million player. You should be 70 points. It's 10 points for every mil, give or take. Right now, I know that if you're a 10-point guy, you don't always get $1 million. I get it. But I think it's a decent one. at times. Heck, McDavid, 130 points. What does he make? 12.5? Kind of a deal. At 153 points one year. Pretty good steal. The point is, Seattle, when they made the playoffs 2 years ago, every forward on their team had at least 13 goals. Like, they had unbelievable scoring depth. Their shooting percentage was through the roof, but it wasn't sustainable as we saw last year. So what's changed? Now, Chandler Stevenson, solid NHL guy, but they don't have a number one center. McCann's probably a low-end first liner, 29 goals, 62 points last year. Okay, but that's it. They got a lot of low-end second liners, some good third liners. I will say this, though, Yanni Gourde, unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. If Seattle is not in the playoff hunt, I think that's a guy who lots of teams would like. He's tenacious. He kills penalties. He's aggressive. He's won Stanley Cups. He can still chip in, 35, 40 points. Now, he makes 5.1 mil, but if Seattle eats half of it, he's a 2.5 guy. Maybe you get a third team involved. Suddenly now he's a 1.25 player for cap hit wise. I think Yanni Gourde is going to be highly sought after at the trade deadline because Seattle, I think they're hoping, well, they got some help because of the Drew Doughty injury. That I think could put them a little closer to LA. I don't see Seattle competing with Vegas or Vancouver or Edmonton, the top three teams. I don't see it, but that's just me. 833-401-1440. 833-401-1440. Put it in your phone, save it as Sports 1440. You can text us anytime in our eWell inbox, your partner in power since 1976. You need electrical gear, they'll help you out. That's EWEL.ca. Now, also, we talked about the baseball playoffs. We discussed it yesterday, but in case you're wondering, you're going to the game on Saturday. The Elks and the Riders probably should be a decent crowd, I would think. Although, I wonder if some are like, why am I going? The most exciting player on the team isn't playing. I don't get it. I am flabbergasted. But we're going to have a GM or the head coach on later this week to discuss as to what is going on there. Your Rem Truck will be by. Actually, we're going to do it today. G-Roy Simon's going to join us in about 35 minutes. Attaboy, con man. I like it. So G-Roy Simon, the GM. So we'll find out. Trey Ford got an injury? Is he not 100% healthy? Because I need to hear the explanation as to why. Because I don't understand it. Young players need to play. How do you get better if you never play? So I don't get. So Everett Fitzhugh will join us from Seattle in the 4 o'clock hour. Spec will be by. Ian Hunter talk a little Jays. How about the Blue Jays? Speaking of WTF, no changes in management on that team. What? What am I missing? What did they do? Now, I noticed they went out and they fired lots of their position coaches because evidently somebody's got to take the bullet for the under. So it's our hitting coach, it's our base running coach, it's all them. It's not the guys who bring in the players. No. They've done a fantastic job. All that's happened is the Jays have gotten progressively worse the last 3 years. But hey, we're doing a great job. Like, what? I'm stunned. So Ian Hunter will join us. I'd be curious as to what's the reasoning for that. Con man, can you think of anything? Like, did you see the press conference today?
Didn't see the press conference.
Oh my God. I was like, is this a politician press conference? They're doing everything to say they didn't have a bad year. What are you talking about? Got a terrible year for what the expectations were. How can anybody say otherwise?
Well, I mean, I didn't have high expectations for the team. This is kind of exactly right where I thought they would be. To be honest, maybe a little bit higher, fourth in the division, not last. Yeah, like you said, Mattingly shifting from the offense to the bench coach role a little bit. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous that you're just basically saying we're mediocre, we were up and down, and we're content with that. We're not going to make any changes. It's kind of on par with the Blue Jays for the last 20 years, to be honest with you.
They had the 7th worst record in baseball.
Yeah.
The Oakland Athletics, who are a tire fire of an organization, had 5 fewer wins than the Blue Jays. They don't spend any money. And they had 5 fewer wins than the Jays. What is it? We'll talk some hockey with your Remchuk, but we're going to talk Blue Jays with him too, because I got to think he'll be fired up. But man, I don't get it. Atkins and Shapiro, obviously, you know what? They're each other's ride or die, I guess. The problem is they ain't doing any riding. Like, all they're doing is driving that team in the ditch. Right? Remember, their whole offseason was, we're going to be used as a pawn for Shohei Ohtani. Do you have a backup plan? If you like, we're willing to spend $600 million on him, but we're not doing anything else. Okay. So after they got it, which they didn't get him, which most of us never believed they were really in the mix to get him. Now, they will tell you they were, but they weren't. Especially at the end of it, they were like $100 million less anyway. And then they did what? Nothing. Like, honestly, what are they? Now, Cons, can you look it up? Aren't the Jays, I said they're 7th worst record. Don't they have the 4th highest payroll? Can you double check? Maybe they're 5th. But all I know is when you're at the bottom of the standings and you've got the highest payroll, doesn't somebody in management have to answer to this? Like, that's stunning to me.
They are the 9th highest payroll.
9th last year?
For 2024. So
yeah, okay, but what about last year? I don't get that. Not coming up. For this year right now. So the season that just ended, they were 9th.
9th still, yeah.
Okay. So still, you're a top 10 team in spending, but you're a bottom 10 team in production. What? And the thing is, Bo Bichette's not making huge dollars. So I don't get it. I don't get it at all. It's crazy. The Boston Bruins. Here's another volley to the Bruins. They're sending, this one really hurts the Swayman camp. I'm kidding, of course. But Yuri Patera was claimed on waivers today. The goaltender, the Canucks put him on waivers. Boston claimed him. They'll be like, oh yeah, Swayman, you want to hold out? We're going to get Yuri Patera over here. We've got depth now. So we'll just, because that's really why they're hiring. Although you keep them for what? I guess they're going to keep him as a backup and they want to play their young guy in the minors. I guess that's possible. So it is rather interesting to say the least for them right now. So that's the other NHL news. Last night, now Stützle looks like he's fine from that hit. That was clear little elbow from Wi-Fi. Not a great play from Arbor Jackai. You just can't, like, he passed the puck. It's 1-1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, boom. Like, come on. You can't make that hit. You might have gotten away that hit in like the 90s, but you can't do it now, and you shouldn't do it now. There's no reason to do it. So I don't, the Montreal fans were all up in arms. Like, they're lucky that Stützle skates away. I would think, hopefully, long-term unscathed for that, because you definitely, you don't know it. So. Hey, guys, what do you think of Jokiharju as a potential deadline target for Nurse? Is that a fit or an upgrade? From Barhead. To be honest, I haven't looked. I think Buffalo really likes their defense core. I'm not sure they would be looking at moving him, but he'll need a little bit more experience. I'm not sold he would necessarily be the perfect fit for a right pair, second pair defenseman for me, but we'll see. Hey, Gregor, I guess that means someone should be in trouble for Nurse's contract. From Rod. Hey, Rod, fun fact for you. Last 4 seasons in the NHL, 5-on-5 goals by defensemen. Cale Makar won. You know who's second? Roman Josi. You know who's third? Erik Karlsson. Guess who's fourth? Darnell Nurse. Hey, can Nurse play better than he did down the stretch last year? 100%. He's shown it. He has to play better. But like I said, I'm done talking about Nurse's contract. For people who think it's grossly overpaid, you can go by all the numbers. It might be $1 million overpaid. Okay? But he's here. It's irrelevant. Stop whining about it. It's the worst thing to complain about. It's not changing. It's not changing. They just need him to play to his capabilities. If you want to say that, totally agree with you. But stop. It's childish to keep, what about his contract? Do we need Chip to come on the show? It's pointless. Even with all of the struggles, Nurse is not remotely as bad as people are suggesting. But he needs to be better than he was. Because after the All-Star break last year, I don't know what the hell happened, but Nurse wasn't very good. He was really good prior to that. So find some consistency is what they need from Darnell Nurse. He's shown it. He was excellent in 21. Pretty solid in 22 and 3. Last year, second half, awful. It's got to be better. That's totally valid. I don't care about the contract. The contract's irrelevant. Just play better. He needs to play better. That's what has to happen. And really just consistent. It's probably a better way to put it. Needs to play consistent. Because when he's on his game, he's a pretty good defenseman. Problem is, when he gets off his game, he can be pretty bad. And that's a concern. 2:17, we'll go return. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, sports1440.ca, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. We'll return.
Party venue is
On the Rocks.
Check out Bingo Tunes on Monday. Perform on the best stage in town with karaoke on Wednesdays. Learn how to salsa with Salsa Rocks on Thursdays. And every weekend, OTR goes live.
With your favorite bands on the OTR stage and DJ Kenny K.
For everything that's going on at On the Rocks, give us a follow.
Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
At On the Rocks, EDM.
Eat well, party hard.
On the Rocks.
On the Rocks.
On the Rocks. Open every day till 2 a.m.
Mr. Rooter meets a ghost. 1 plunge, 2, and 3. A toilet clogged with a ghost? Man, I love plumbing. You're free now.
I will never find peace. The clog is fixed, yes, but I have never trusted the sump pump.
No problemo. I can fix that. Yeah, go to the light, you little scamp.
Thank you, Mr. Rooter.
To resolve your unfinished plumbing business, trust one plumber, Mr. Rooter. You got a go-to coffee spot, a trusted barber, even a lucky game day jersey. But when it's about looking your absolute best, there's only one name you need, Mr. Dirk. Family run since 1939, we're experts in crafting impeccable tailor-made suits and offering a wide variety of everyday styles. Pair that with personalized one-on-one fittings and the convenience of on-site tailoring. Mr. Dirk elevates your style game. Visit our Edmonton store or explore MrDirk.com. Score big on style with Mr. Dirk.
The Junior Prospects Hockey League is entering its third season of gameplay. The JPHL now offers academic and athletic opportunities in the 14U, 15, 17, and 18U age divisions. All JPHL games are broadcast live on Silent Ice TV with a showcase-style game schedule and high level of travel and accommodations for its team, staff, and players. To learn more about why the JPHL is the fastest growing elite hockey academy stream in Western Canada, visit juniorprospectshockeyleague.com.
Actions speak louder than words. Japa Machinery Group puts your construction plan into action with XCMG construction machinery you need. Available for rental or sale. Learn more at japamachinery.com.
Nuges Nuggets. This is Nuges Nuggets, brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling. What nugget of heating and cooling advice does Nuge have today?
You can save a lot of money by bundling your new furnace and AC with Legacy. It's kind of like saving money on an endorsement by bundling me, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, with someone like, Zachary Martin Hyman.
Thanks for suggesting me, Nuge.
Get no payments and no interest for 1 year on your new AC and furnace from Legacy Heating and Cooling. Proud sponsor of Nuges Nuggets.
Michelle and Colette are sisters. Sisters who don't agree on much, especially when it comes to which hockey team is the best.
Edmonton is the best, baby. Vancouver's number one.
Even when it comes to meat snacks from Wilhawks.
I love the Herrenschwiener. The ham sausage rules.
But they will agree
Wilhawk beef jerky is the best.
it might just be the only thing Alberta hockey fans can agree on.
Pick up some Wilhawk beef jerky today because you don't win friends with salad.
When was the last time your electricity and natural gas provider made you feel like this? Low rates, no strings attached, year-round perks, and local energy experts who always have your back with Encore by Epcor. Find that carefree energy feeling at encore.epcor.com/carefree.
Customers are free to purchase natural gas or electricity services from a retailer of their choice. For a list of retailers, visit ucahelps.alberta.ca or call 310-4822 toll-free.
Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back. Also, big guest joining us in studio today for Who Is It Wednesday. I'll say this: pretty quick climber in the sporting world. That's my big hint for you today. Pretty quick climber in the sporting world. So that's coming up at 3:00 today. Let's get into the oil report brought to you by Volvo Cars Edmonton.com. We're stop in right now. XC60s, XC90s. I got a few great ones in stock. I've driven an XC90 for years. I love that vehicle. It is so comfortable, reliable, everything. You need the extra seat, boom, pop it back up the row so you can go 7. Or if you just need some storage space for hockey and everything else, put the seat down. Got a lot of space in the back. It's perfect. Get one now at Volvo Cars Edmonton.com. As Tyler Yaremchuk from Oilers Nation and Daily Faceoff joins us. Ty, how you doing?
I am doing good. Greg's 1 week away from the regular season starting, which is fantastic because regular season hockey is fun and preseason hockey is boring.
Yeah, well, tonight at least it's NHL players pretty much top to bottom. It is Seattle's final preseason game, so it'll be a little bit better. Now, the intensity is not going to be as close, but I will say, after watching the Oilers practice yesterday, which was easily the fastest paced practice of the year, I would expect Edmonton to put forth a better effort than we've seen in some of the preseason games thus far.
Yeah, kind of getting to that point or the natural point where you want things to ramp up a little bit. And I think, not seriously is not a great word, but the players know that a couple more tune-up games then it's the real thing. So I think the intensity's cranked up a bit, like you said, and that's obviously good. It's still 8 is far too many preseason games. You could cut out the middle 4 and probably just get with 4 total. But I mean, whatever, that's beating an old drum here. Everyone kind of knows that.
Yeah. Looking at the orders, I'm going to say it today, right now, Noah Philp is on the opening night roster next Wednesday. Agree or disagree?
I think I am sadly going to disagree. When I look at the roster right now, Derek Ryan hasn't played poorly by any stretch. And, I do think Philp, if we're going purely on how they've played in camp and in the preseason, I think Noah Philp has earned that job, but he doesn't need waivers to go back down. You pointed out in your article today over at Oilers Nation that he's basically only played hockey in 2 of the last 4 years. I think they'll keep Derek Ryan up over him. And I think that, with the cap picture being what it is and them having the ability to accrue cap space this season, I'm not sure if you want to carry 13 healthy forwards all season. They could do it if they wanted to, but if you go with the 12 forwards, Kane on IR, obviously, then 70 and 2 goalies, you give yourself around $800,000 to $1 million in cap space, which can accrue to around $4 million by the deadline if you keep it that way throughout the entire season. I think that's a luxury the Oilers should try to keep intact and hold on to. So I don't think they should keep 13 healthy forwards. And for that reason alone, I think you put Philp down in the minors, let him play 18 to 20 minutes a night down in Bakersfield, really see if he can even, maybe develop a little bit more, bring him up as soon as there's an injury, or maybe look at bringing him up around Christmas time and go with it from there. But I love the story. I really want him to be on the opening day roster. I just think Derek Ryan's been fine, and I don't think you can keep both of them, or I don't think they should keep both of them.
Yeah, I think the reality of thinking they're going to have 12 healthy forwards for more than a week is pretty low odds. Right? Guys get banged up. You know what? They need to miss a game, not necessarily 2 or 3, but a game here or there. Even if Philp comes up, the Oilers would still have 200 and some plus cap space, so they can accrue that. And the thing is, if Kane's on LTIR and he's still on LTIR, come the trade deadline, they're going to have boatloads of money, right? And move him to LTIR then if you need to. So I think the way Philp has played, he's been a lot better than a lot of other guys, and that's why I think he stays. Now, these final 2 games against NHL rosters, maybe all of a sudden it's, the preseason, but I watched him in practice because I find practice at times you can get a better sense of, where's this guy fit? Because in 9 minutes of playing time or 10, it's hard sometimes in a game because some shifts, nothing actually happens. But in practice, guys actually go harder, I think, consistently in practice than they do in a game because you're going from drill to drill and it's boom, boom. Coaches are watching, guys like, okay, let's go. And I watched Noah Philp yesterday, and he looked so comfortable, and he fired some bullets past Stuart Skinner from high in the slot. And I was like, okay, this guy can shoot. He was in on the penalty kill. They did 3-on-3 drills. I just noticed his speed, and I'm like, I think he just made the team. So I could be wrong, but I think Noah Philp, just the way he's played, he's 6'3". I think, honestly, Ty, I think for game one, I think it's going to be Noah Philp as the center for game one and Corey Perry and Pod Coles in the wingers.
And I would absolutely love it because, again, like I think he's earned that job. I think he's earned that spot. And I also do. I kind of like the message it would send as well, just as an organization. Like, hey, if you come in and you play well, it doesn't matter who you're going up against. It doesn't matter where you played last year. In this case, played nowhere. It doesn't matter where you've been, who you are, what your name is, how many years you've been in the league. If you come in and play well, you will have a spot on the roster. I love the message it sends. Again, I love the story of Noah Philp. I love the way he's played. For me personally, I know you mentioned if Kane's on LTIR, they'll have boatloads of cap space. They'd still have a little bit that could accrue. You could keep 13 for the first week or two and then go down to 12 or whatever you want to end up doing and go around the cap that way. I don't know if they're going to keep 13. I guess we'll wait and see. But I'm on the same side of you in the sense that I want him to be playing opening night because I think he's deserved it.
Moving to the defense, we'll see Darnell Nurse for the first time in preseason. He has skated for the last month. He's taken part in every drill in practice. They were just being cautious to get him into contact. Now, he's either going to play with Dermott or Brown. I'm going to guess it's Dermott tonight because I don't think there's any chance that Brown will play with him in the regular season to start anyway. Kind of maybe like a last hurrah just to see what Dermott has, and then they'll go with Emberson and Nurse on Friday is my guess. Because if they were only going to play Nurse one game, I would think it would be with Emberson tonight.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good read on things. And then for Josh Brown, you're playing him with Kulak, and then maybe you give Stetcher the final preseason game with Kulak, and you make your final decision based on the results here. And like you said, Emerson's going to slot up with Darnell Nurse. I think the interesting thing for me is if Josh Brown doesn't win that battle against Troy Stetcher, and they say, okay, Troy Stetcher is going to be our number 60 man. He's going to play on a pairing with Brett Kulak for opening night. Is it Dermott or Brown who ends up being your number 7? Because I would imagine you could go and sign Travis Dermott for the league minimum. You could put Josh Brown on waivers. I doubt anyone's going to step up and claim Josh Brown based on how he's looked so far through the preseason and the fact he has 2 more years after this one on the contract. So do you use that as maybe a way to go, okay, we're going to save $220,000 against the cap? And is that maybe your justification for being able to say, okay, we are going to run with 13, 7, and 2, because then, I mean, you'd be accruing, I think, close to $400,000 at that point. So is that a spot to maybe buy some savings? And Dermott has the ability to play the left and right side. Again, maybe they're test driving that tonight. Put him on the right side with Darnell Nurse, see how he looks there, and maybe you're more comfortable with him as your 7 over Brown.
Yeah, it's possible. I like the Oilers signed Brown to 3 years. I think a lot of people are forgetting that the team's not going to change their mind on a player based on 3 preseason games. Like I'll be stunned if Josh Brown isn't on the 20, whatever it is, 22 or 23 man roster to start the season. Now he's going to have to play well or play effectively to stay there. But I don't think the organization signs a guy for 3 years and then puts him on waivers 3 months later. I'll be flabbergasted if they do that.
Yeah, it would be surprising, but I mean, you could always do it under the guise of, hey, we want him playing minutes. We don't want him playing as our, number 7 and sitting in the press box this whole time.
But he's 30.
yeah, he's 30 years old. I mean, I just kind of looked down at that and I was like, oh yeah, he's not like a 26, 27-year-old. So yeah, I mean, he's 30. That probably won't happen. So I watched the way he's played so far in the preseason, and he's playing against a lot of American League competition, and he had a poorly timed pinch in the 3rd period against Vancouver. He had a couple of bad turnovers in the first 2 periods against Vancouver. I know they gave him the 3 years, and yeah, you're right. Like, you're not going to watch him in the preseason and go, well, let's give up on this guy. But I just don't see enough of a difference between him and Dermott to justify the $220,000 difference, especially as your 7, especially when one guy is more comfortable playing both sides of the ice. Again, we talked about Philp and the idea that, like, okay, let's send the message that if you play well, you earn it. What kind of message does it send if Josh Brown sputters his way through the preseason and you go, yep, he's still our number 7? I don't think he's earned it.
Yeah, I think the other factor is, though, they do look at the regular season and the lack of toughness, no Kane, no Desharnais. I think it's a factor. And I look at this team, the last thing I'm not a big believer. Like, the reason why Kane's so valuable is because he's on the ice. He plays a lot. He played the fourth most minutes of any forward 5-on-5 last year. So he can be a physical presence when you play that much. Fourth line forwards, no. Now, third pair defensemen, even if you're playing 14 minutes a night, you're still in the game, right? And so that's kind of what I see from Brown. The other thing is that this preseason, those games they've been closer to American League style games than NHL games. And they're harder to play. I know that sounds strange for people, but guys are in the wrong position too often. And there's no pace to that game. Like even the ones where some of the NHL guys, like they might be going 75% in some of those games. So that's why I think they're going to, Brown will be on a short leash when the season starts, but I don't think they're just going to throw him right off the ledge because of a few preseason games. I could be totally wrong, but I know I've been around the league long enough to GMs and how they talk and styles of play and everything else. And that I think my concern with Brown though is he's lost some battles. That's the thing that concerns me most is that's what he's here for. And guys have spun off him way too easy. So that's like tonight when he plays, I'm not watching how he moves the puck. Josh Brown's never going to be a great puck mover. Anybody who's watching Josh Brown's like, hey, he doesn't move the puck well. Well, thanks, Tips. Like we know that. The things he's supposed to do well, is he doing that well? And that's going to be what I watch for tonight.
Yeah, and that's the one play that just like really made me shake my head last game. It was in the third period. I was watching the game on TV, so it was the play closest to kind of the camera side. And Brown went to go step up on a guy and just did the old like half step up and then go back. And then he kind of lightly reached out an arm to try to stop the guy from going around him. And it was like, dude, just step up and hammer him. It was some American League guy from the Canucks. Just bury him, and at least you get the crowd going a little bit, and it doesn't look like a bad play, even if it's a mistimed pinch. But the fact that he just couldn't quite get his footing down enough to like, okay, am I going to hit this guy? Am I going to stay back? And then it resulted in a scoring chance. And it was like, man, I want someone. I mean, you mentioned Vinny, like if he's going to be the Vinny replacement, yeah, win battles, go hit someone, go be mean to someone in front of the net. And I'm disappointed we haven't seen that because you're right. He was never going to come in and make a crisp outlet pass and hammer a shot from the blue line. None of that stuff. But I haven't even seen him be doing the stuff that I thought he would be good at. And that's been what's disappointing.
Now, give me your thoughts. I want to switch gears for a second. 9th highest payroll, 7th worst record in baseball. And clearly it was the hitting coach, the assistant pitching coach, and the field coordinator, whatever the hell that is. Those are the guys who pay the price, not the Prez or the GM of the Blue Jays. What did you make of their announcements today?
Also, the hitting coach who was the hitting coach a few years ago when they had one of the best offenses in baseball before they offloaded Gurriel and Hernandez and everything totally fell apart. So I think that should probably be added in there as well. And the one thing, this drove me nuts, and I put it out on Twitter today. They start the press conference. Keegan Matheson, who is great, asks Shapiro just point blank, what part of this is on management? What part of this do you own? And Shapiro instantly goes into talking about the injuries and how, what are we going to do? Injuries. How can we overcome injuries? The Atlanta Braves are without Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna, Spencer Strider. They didn't have Ozzie Albies for a big chunk of the season, and they're still in the playoffs. And there's a stat that takes injuries in baseball and correlates them to like basically the player's salary. So like how much money did you have on the IR for certain parts of the season? The Jays are 24th in the league in that. They were in the top 10 of healthiest teams in terms of injuries to impact players. That's not an excuse. Also, you can add depth. That's an option. Everyone knew that the rotation was 1 or 2 arms light coming into the year. Everyone knew the bullpen was running on gas coming into the year. And you didn't go out and address the depth in either of those 2 spots. So when Shapiro sits there with his dumb little grin on and talks about how, what can we do? It was injuries. You could have planned for that. Other teams deal with injuries and you weren't even all that injured. It's ridiculous. Like I'm not as much of an Atkins Shapiro hater as a lot of people because they have delivered a couple good years and they've made a lot of really good moves. But their inability to look inward and be like, maybe our process is more flawed than we thought. That is ultimately going to be what stops this team from moving forward.
Because outside of Bo Bichette, what was their biggest injury?
They didn't have Jordan Romano, I think would be the only other one. But again, everyone knew that the bullpen was weak coming into the year.
Yeah. And how many blown saves did they have? Like, it wasn't like they were losing games because of blown saves consistent. Now, I know if he's there, then maybe Green pitches a little bit earlier, so that might be the argument. And anyway, because Green wasn't bad when he came in, right? Like, he wasn't awful at all in that situation. I look at it, so I guess it leads me to the next question. We know that Vladdy Guerrero is obviously going to be due for a big race here. What about Bo Bichette? Where do you come out on Bo Bichette? And do you think there's any appetite for the organization to move him to second base?
No, I don't think the player would agree to that going into a contract year to sign up for that. And I think if the organization went to him and said, you're going to be a second baseman, he would say, okay, you're trading me. And I think that's where it's going anyways with Bichette. I can't see Rogers ponying up the money to give both him and Vladdy massive extensions within a 12-month window. I think Vladdy's the guy you prioritize. And I think this offseason, the biggest splash the Jays are going to make is offloading Bo Bichette, which sucks because I love Bo Bichette and I wanted it to work so badly in Toronto. But if you don't think you can sign him in the next 12 months, and there has been a lot of speculation from insiders that he wants to test free agency, then I think you got to trade him when his value is highest. And that'll probably be right now. I think you probably do it for more MLB ready talent. I look at last night, Michael King was the starter for the Padres, struck out 12. He had an unbelievable year. He was one of the pieces they got in the Juan Soto trade. Okay, if you can move Bo Bichette and bring in like a high-end starter or a high-end young bat and you hit on that, then maybe you can still find a way to compete next year without Bichette on your roster. But I have a funny feeling he's played his last game as a J.
So you think he gets dealt this summer? All right. So you think the order is just going to be 12-7 and Philp, Caggiula, Olivier Rodrigue, obviously Pickard now is back, so he'll go down. And then the others, who am I missing? Oh, Raphael Lavoie and Dermott. Those are the five that you think are gone?
Yeah, I think so. Again, like there's a part of me that sees logic in sending down Brown for Dermott, but kind of what you said, after you said it does seem far-fetched that they would waive a guy after signing him to a 3-year deal this summer. So yeah, I think it's going to be pretty standard, and it'll be more or less what we expected the opening night roster to look like when camp opened up. I'd love to see Noah Philp. Golden Bears open their season this weekend, by the way. Shout out to the U of A. I'd love to see Noah Philp there, but I think they'll go with call it the safer play and keep Derek Ryan in the lineup.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll disagree on that. I actually think Philp's going to be here. Monday is the roster deadline for the Edmonton Oilers. Maybe it's sooner, but Monday at the latest. Ty, have a great day. We'll chat with you again soon.
See you, Greg.
There you go. That's Ty Remchuk from Oilers Nation and Daily Faceoff. What do you think? Who are your... Now, I think we can all agree Olivier Rodrigue goes down. Okay, so that's kind of... Drake Caggiula. Sure. So then that leaves 3. Who do you think are the other 3 players who will be sent down? Now, maybe it's only 2, because I think they're going to go with 13. That's what I think. So we'll let you know what you think. Do you think it'll be 12 forwards? And I say healthy forwards. We know Kane's here, and he's going to be on IR. They're not going to put him on LTIR to start. There's no need to. There's no benefit, in fact, from doing it. They'd actually just lose the cap space. So that makes no sense. 833-401-1440. Your thoughts on that? When we return, GM of the Elks, Geroy Simon, will join us. What is the thought process for the organization right now with their young quarterback? We'll find out next.
It's a smoothie to any friend you've had since 1999. That's a good friend. And Booster Juice was there, now celebrating 25 years in Canada and more than 450 locations from coast to coast. A silver anniversary splashed with lots of oranges. Celebrate 25 years of Booster Juice with the return of OG favorite smoothies, like the original, the Orangesicle, and the Marathon, made with cranberries, bananas, strawberries, orange sorbet, and probiotic yogurt. Happy 25th, Booster Juice. Download the Booster Rewards app today.
Get ready, Edmonton. The country sensation, the Rec Laws, are coming to the Edmonton Expo Center Arena on October 3rd. It's your chance to see the award-winning duo that's taken the country scene by storm. From Long Live the Night to Feels Like That, the Rec Laws are bringing the party to you during Yeags Rodeo Week. Don't miss out. Pre-sale tickets available from now until September 16th at EdmontonExpoCenter.com. Public on sale begins September 19th at 10 a.m. The Rec Laws at Edmonton Expo Center Arena on October 3rd.
The job isn't done until the last load is hauled, and having a semi-trailer out of commission is not an option. Whether replacing or adding to your convoy, Edmonton Trailer has a huge inventory of new and used semi-trailers, trusted by the gravel, logging, oil field, fluids, and freight industries. Find a trailer right for you online or at one of their 3 locations. For sales, service, parts, rental, and finance, when you're in it for the long haul, Edmonton Trailer.
This week at The Brick, when you buy more, you save more. Shop amazing savings throughout the store, like up to 30% off furniture, up to 40% off mattresses, and up to $500 off select major kitchen appliances. Plus, when you buy more, we give more. A portion of our sales will be donated to your local Children's Hospital Foundation, helping to transform children's lives with every purchase you make. Some exclusions apply. See in store or online at thebrick.com for details. The Brick, saving you more.
Some things just work together. Sticks and pucks, cleats and AstroTurf. Your love for the game and Papa John's passion for better ingredients. Better pizza. Nothing pairs with the game like Papa John's. Crafted with signature sauce, toppings, and original fresh dough. They're the champion of pizza. And now you're the champion of winning deals. Just order at papajohns.ca. Use promo code SPORTS20 and score 20% off any regular menu price order. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's. That's SPORTS20.
Wow, get ready for a silly hockey fans. Your partner in power just skated onto the ice.
EWEL.ca, the new e-commerce website for electrical wholesalers Edmonton, is ready for the power play 24/7, 365.
UL skates to where the puck will be in 5 years. Now that's forward thinking.
Killer selection, slamming products from the best brands, and legendary service.
Don't sit on the bench. Get your account today at ewell.ca and win that project.
Plug into your partner in power. Get an EWEL.ca account today.
From bench to bench, sport to sport, Elite Promotional Marketing will help take your teamwear to the next level with a wide selection of uniforms, apparel, and promotional products. So when you want your team to look elite, head to ElitePromoMarketing.com.
Bringing every project to life requires the right team. By joining the Japa Machinery Group service or sales teams, you can be part of setting a new industry standard. Celebrating a legacy of excellence with Japa. Learn more at japamachinery.com.
$245. Oh, man, what a great song, The Walk of Life. Oh, killer. Reminds me of a great road trip I took with my late father when I was 15 years of age down to Calgary. Still remember it. I think we must have played that back then. It was a cassette tape in the vehicle. We had a 75 Cutlass Supreme. It had white leather bucket seats. Oh, V8, that thing could go. And woo, it's a great song, buddy. I love it. Love it. Let's get to the football report now, brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling. It is going to start to get cold sooner, sadly. Guess what? No payments, no interest for 1 year on your furnace. Get it now at legacyheating.ca. As we are joined once again by the interim general manager of the Edmonton Elks, G. Roy Simon. Joins us, G. Roy. Welcome back to the show. Appreciate your time. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Well, G. Roy, the big question many people have is looking kind of at the now and the future in the organization. Kind of what's the plan for Trey Ford?
Well, I mean, we're going to continue to develop Trey and you know, have him in Edmonton for the long term.
So how do you balance developing him if he's not playing in games, though?
Well, there's more to development than playing games. That's why we practice every day. That's why we meet, and that's why we, you know, have other opportunities besides the game. You know, he'll get an opportunity at some point, but as of right now, we're going with McLeod, and you know, that's Jerry's decision, and we're gonna support that.
So when you look at Trey Ford and the fact that, because you obviously been here for a long time in the organization, and for whatever reason, when he starts games, you guys are 6-7 in the last 2 years, and when he doesn't, you're 3-16. Does that factor into the decision making at all?
Yeah, but I mean, there's more to it than just, if a guy starts. I mean, we feel confident in McLeod and his ability to help us win games, as we do Trey. But as of right now, McLeod has been a little more consistent, so we're going with that. But again, we're going to continue to develop Trey, and we'll keep working, and eventually he'll be a starter in this league for a long time.
So when you look at him and his what areas of his game does he need to be more consistent in?
Well, I won't go into the details, but there just needs to be development and more consistency. Other than that, Trey's a fantastic quarterback, and we do have confidence in Trey when he plays. It's just right now we're just going with McLeod.
Now, is that because mathematically there's still a chance to make the playoffs? Is that the reasoning?
We're going with the more consistent guy right now. That's why.
Okay. So there, after this weekend, obviously if you win, I'm assuming you stick with Bethel Thompson. If you don't, at what point do you turn to the future regardless of who's more consistent?
Well, we're going to worry about this week, and we plan on winning the game. So we'll deal with next week when we deal with it. But right now we're planning on beating Saskatchewan.
Okay. Moving ahead to the game against Saskatchewan. I know your defense gave up a lot of points in Winnipeg, but your offense didn't move the ball at all in the first half, right? There was 20 or 38, I think it was 37 passing yards in the first 7 series, and Rankin had that one great run of 47 yards, but otherwise nothing worked. What did you see as the issue offensively in Winnipeg last week?
Well, when you go into Winnipeg and you start the way we started, it's hard to get any momentum. That's a veteran team, and they're very hot right now. So their offense was rolling. We weren't playing the way we expected to play at the beginning, but the guys continued to play hard, and they continued to battle, and eventually we got a few drives and put some points on the board, but. That's just the way it goes sometimes. That's football, that's sports, that's life. We felt we played hard in the second half. We got some momentum. We played somewhat of a physical brand of football, what we expect. And, just because we don't start a certain way, that doesn't mean you give up and quit. You keep fighting and keep working. That's the theory around what we're doing here. We don't start. If we don't start that great, you just keep fighting and you keep working at it and keep finding ways to be successful. And that's what we're going to continue to do.
Roy Simon joins us. Elks hosting the Rough Riders on Saturday. It's a must-win game to keep their playoff hopes alive. 4 points back of BC, 5 points back of the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Defensively, your defense has been pretty good for a long time. Right, the Bombers, didn't have much going until late in the fourth quarter in that first game. But Winnipeg seemed to, G-Roy, like they seemed to find something in the coverage. They were able to exploit you guys over the top, which really hadn't been the case a lot of the season. What did you see anything in your defense that you hope can be fixed that quick for this weekend?
Yeah, we made a couple of changes last week, and due to injury, and we had to make a couple of changes, and they took advantage of it. They're a good team. That's why they've been to the Grey Cup the last 4 years, and on the winning streak that they're on. That's the level we're trying to get to around here. And we'll make no excuses. We didn't play our best game. They took advantage of it, and that's what good teams do, and that's what we'll continue to strive for. We want to make this place a championship level organization, and we'll keep working towards that.
When you look at that, G-Roy, winning is very infectious, and I think Winnipeg's the prime example of it. They had some rough early years under their head coach. They stuck with it, and it's turned out, and they've been to the Grey Cup 4 years in a row, and right now are the best team in the league. You create a winning culture, but some cultures, they stay as losing cultures. What do you feel is the most important thing to get out of the losing culture that's been here lately to become a winning culture?
Well, I think we're on track to do that right now. I think the continuity that we've had over the last few weeks, continue to keep in the core group of players around here, keeping a consistent group of people that are high level, high achieving and high caliber players and coaches. I think that's the key. I've been through it myself with the BC Lions. We had a great run there, and the thing was, you keep good people, high achieving individuals there in the organization, and you keep working at it, and you do make some changes, but they're not wholesale changes, and I think we have a good group of not only players but staff members, and we'll continue to move forward and push this thing to become a bring this organization back to a championship level organizations on a consistent basis.
G-Roy Simon joins us. I know, G-Roy, you mentioned the one change that you make when you took over as a GM was, the philosophy in your practices. They, a little bit shorter. You wanted to have the players more rested come game time, and obviously that's led to more victories as of late than it happened prior to that. I think that was a month ago that we spoke about that. So the longer you're on the job, kind of, pulling all the strings, shall we say, what are some other things that you feel or other changes you've made behind the scenes or other ones that you would like to make moving forward?
Well, for right now, there's not a whole lot to do because, we are what we are throughout the rest of the year. And like I said, we're going to keep the core group of guys here who we feel that we can move forward with and win, not only for the immediate future, but for the long-term future. And that obviously includes Trey. But we feel, like I said, we feel like we have a good group on both sides of the spectrum. And we're going to move forward that way.
G-Roy, there was a report earlier this week that the Elks are close to signing a president, and that then obviously there's going to be decisions, and maybe signing, yourself and other people. What's kind of your understanding as to that? Is that report accurate? Are you expecting that? And does that, kind of looking for continuity? How much of that, if you don't have a long-term contract, plays into some of your decisions?
Well, I mean, that's not my job to report on the president's, search and if they're close or not. I'll leave that to those powers that be. But for me, I'm planning on being in Edmonton for the foreseeable future and for a long time. So I'm planning to be here and making plans, like I said, for the short-term future and the long-term.
So when you look at the long term, and we circle back to Trey Ford, because obviously it's a quarterback-driven league, and when you have good quarterback play, you got a much better chance of success. And I've had lots of quarterbacks on the show, and they say, "Hey, practice is great, but I need some reps eventually if I want to get better. The games are just different." What would be the plan then for next season? Would you need a veteran? Would it be a 1A, 1B? Do you have an idea on what it would be for Ford to be a starting quarterback for your team consistently?
Yeah, I have an idea, but obviously I'm not going to share it right now. But again, Trey's in the plans for the future. That's what I will tell you. But other than that, that's kind of for me and the staff to deal with. And when the time is appropriate, we'll let everybody else know.
G-Roy, thanks for your time. Good luck this weekend against Saskatchewan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There you go. G-Roy Simon, GM of the Elks. Didn't get a great response as to what it is about Trey Ford's game that they want to see more consistency in. But the funny part about that is, go back and look at Trey Ford's 3 starts this year. So look when he came in against Hamilton. All he did was engineer 3 touchdown drives in a row. Then against Saskatchewan, they have their best offensive game. Then against BC, he's 6 for 6 for 96 yards, gets injured. Misses 3 weeks, comes back, has a tough game against Winnipeg. So he's had 1 game where he struggled. 1. And I keep hearing this, well, he's not as consistent. Based on what? What numbers aren't as consistent? Was Bethel Thompson consistent in the first half? Yeah, consistently ineffective. That's what I don't get. Look at their first quarter against Calgary 3 weeks ago. 2 and out, 3 and out, 2 and out. They had a few punt singles because they didn't move the ball. Against Winnipeg, their first 7 series, 7, not 1, not 2, not 3, 7 offensive series. They had a grand total of 37 passing yards. And they had 75 rushing yards. One of them came on a 47-yarder. So outside of one play, their offense through their first 7 series had 70 yards. And you're going to tell me that Bethel Thompson's more consistent. But you don't want to tell me in what areas. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't understand it. There has to be something that they don't want to share. Did Trey Ford tell someone off? I don't know. Because if you just look at actual production, which last I checked is fairly important in sports, just at actual production, Trey Ford had 1 game where he struggled against the best defense in the league. And oh, by the way, that same defense led your veteran quarterback to do nothing for 7 series. I don't understand it. So it's a very unique hill to die on at the most important position. The only thing that I can rationalize, and I don't like to go TMZ here, is that there's something else going on. It just doesn't make sense. None of the, I keep hearing that, oh, he's not as consistent, not as consistent. What are you talking about? Where was he inconsistent against Saskatchewan? Where was he inconsistent against Hamilton or BC? He had 1 game as a young starter where he struggled. 1. So, I don't know. It's mind-blowing to me is what it is. And then you can't even say what the area is. I don't get it. When we come back, we'll talk to another GM on Who Is It Wednesday. But first, Connor Halley, Sports 1440 update brought to you by Kids Sport in the 6th annual Pizza Pickout. It goes October 24th, 3 weeks tomorrow. If you like pizza, some of the best pizzerias in town will put all their pizza on display. You get to try so many different kinds. It's a great price, great event. Get your tickets at Jason Gregor Pizza Pickout.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
The Toronto Blue Jays are staying the course for the 2025 season. Both GM Ross Atkins and manager John Schneider will return in their roles in 2025. The team added Don Mattingly, which shift from helping oversee the offense to a more traditional bench coach role. Shapiro also said he expects the payroll to remain the same range heading into 2025. Major League Baseball playoffs today. Tigers and Astros tied at 2 apiece. That one's in the top of the 8th. The Tigers lead that series 1-0. Also, Royals up on the Orioles 1-0 in the top of the 2nd. Royals lead that series 1-0. Later tonight, you'll have the Brewers trying to even up their series with the Mets when they meet at 5:30, and the Padres look to complete the sweep over the Braves at 6:30. In the NHL, the Boston Bruins claim goaltender of the year Patera off waivers from the Vancouver Canucks. Patera, 25, signed a 2-year deal with the Canucks in the offseason. The 6'3" netminder appeared in 6 games last season with Vegas Golden Knights going 1-3-1 preseason action. The Oilers are in action taking on the Kraken. They also have the Jets and the Flames, Panthers, Lightning, Hurricanes take on the Preds, and Utah in Anaheim. And from the NFL, Cleveland Browns star running back Nick Chubb returned to practice today for the first time since suffering a grotesque season-ending left knee injury more than a year ago. The 4-time Pro Bowl player is not likely to play Sunday, but is expected to be active for a game in the month of October. Coming up in hour 2 of the Jason Gregor Show, it's another edition of Who Is It Wednesday. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
It's Sports 1440, a Stingray radio station broadcasting on Treaty 6 territory.
Download the free iHeartRadio app and listen to CKJR wherever you go.
Edmonton's premium live music and party venue is
On the Rocks.
Check out Bingo Tunes on Monday. Perform on the best stage in town with karaoke on Wednesdays. Learn how to salsa with Salsa Rocks on Thursdays. And every weekend, OTR goes live.
With your favorite bands on the OTR stage and DJ Kenny K.
For everything that's going on at On the Rocks, give us a follow.
Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
At On the Rocks, EDM.
Eat well, party hard.
On the Rocks.
On the Rocks.
On the Rocks. Open every day till 2 a.m.
I take possession of my commercial space in 3 months. I need lighting. I need a fire alarm. I need data. I need a generator. I need panels.
Sounds like a job for the men and women of Action Electrical.
Projects team reporting. We design, build, and construct all the electrical systems for your projects. Need everything to work right? Get the Action Electrical project team on your site.
Facing an electrical menace? Call the men and women of Action. Operating throughout Alberta at actionelectrical.net.
Hockey is back, and Play Alberta, Alberta's #1 sportsbook and official partner of the Edmonton Oilers, has you covered with bigger offers, boosted odds, live betting, player props, and more. New to Play Alberta? New players now receive $200 in free bets just for signing up. You already play? Get a $10 free bet for every $100 you bet. Every week, all season long. Visit playalberta.ca and make your picks today. Bonus terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Kevin Carius. We're heading into fall, but the deals are hot as ever at St. Albert Dodge. Like this, a 2024 Dodge Compass Altitude 4x4, discounted from $48,860 to $39,900. We're talking cool, black 18-inch aluminum wheels, a 10.1-inch touch screen display, Apple CarPlay, backup camera, all the bells and whistles. Good choice of colors, too. But supplies are limited. Get yours before they're gone. Head up the trail and see how easy it is to do business at St. Albert Dodge.
Silent Ice Sports and Entertainment is an innovative market leader across Western Canada with sports and entertainment properties including the Spruce Grove Saints, the Junior Prospects Hockey League, Silent Rides Charter Company, the Hockey Super League, and the newly launched Female Super League. Silent Ice also owns the Western Hockey League Seattle Thunderbirds and operates the Morinville AAA Arena. The Silent Ice Center, a new state-of-the-art entertainment facility, is open in Nisku, which features 2 sheets of ice, including a 1,600-seat arena and a restaurant with a viewing area.
Day or night, tasting just so right. You can order Oodle Noodle at oodlenoodle.ca, delivering you the news almost right away. Remember, you can order Oodle Noodle at oodlenoodle.ca. So stay on your couch all day and order oodlenoodle.ca. Oodle Noodle.
We roll through Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. Oh, man, playoffs. Oh, my goodness. I love playoffs in every sport. Now, if you're a diehard fan of Houston and Detroit and you are recording the game, you just take a few seconds because I'm going to tell you what's going on. But it's been back and forth in that game, and it's just when you think guys are scoring, they're getting thrown out, and it's crazy. It's Houston steals home base. They're like, oh, my God, we're back in it. And then Detroit just pumps up 3. And now they're 5 outs away from going to the second round. Woo! This is a team that looked like they were dead and gone in early August. So that's why sports is awesome. That's why you're listening. That's why we talk about it, because it is awesome. There's nothing like it, honestly. There's nothing that's as unpredictable in sports. And the great part about the unpredictability is usually it leads to lots of good feelings. Sometimes heartbreak, yes, but lots of good feelings in between. Now, let's get to Who Is It Wednesday? Very special guest joining us. Our big guest of the day, brought to you by the Female Super League, new league that has been started to allow and develop more girls playing 12U and 14U hockey. If you're interested, go to femalesuperleague.com. As we are joined now by a gentleman, former WHL player, also played in the USHL, then played at Waterloo in university, and then started working his way up, and is now the general manager of the Edmonton Oil Kings. Kurt Hill joins us. Kurt, how you doing, my man?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm excellent. Outside of hockey, what is your favorite sport?
Oh, football for sure.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you ever play it?
I never played. I practiced with the high school team a few times when I would have probably grade 10.
Okay.
Went out for a few times, but pretty too much, not enough time with hockey going on. So, but yeah, I watch it all the time. I'm a Broncos guy. So.
Oh, okay. Like going back to like the how you wouldn't Elway would be a little bit before you. No, you might have been 10, right, when they won. Elway 10 or 11, I think so.
No, I was a Peyton Manning guy growing up. So my
okay.
friend gave me the ultimatum that when Peyton Manning got traded, I either got to stick with Indy or I got to go to Denver, and I can only choose one team the rest of the way. So I went with them to Denver.
Okay.
Got the Super Bowl.
Now you're just locked into mediocrity.
Yeah, tough times.
Yeah, that's all right. Hey, Connor's a Chargers fan, so he knows your pain. So on Who Is It Wednesday, we'd like to kind of get to how'd you get to becoming a GM. And so start out, was hockey like right in the blood from a young age?
Yeah, certainly my dad played. He played, men's senior hockey, kind of won a Hardy Cup back in the day. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, he did. He
Okay.
played in some good teams in Winnipeg. And so growing up from a young age, all I really remember is playing hockey. I played some soccer too, I guess. I was a goaltender in soccer, oddly enough, but played that until I was about 14, I would say. Once I got drafted to the Western League, growing up playing my minor hockey in Winnipeg, that's kind of when it was like, okay, all the chips are in hockey, and this is all I'm going to do now.
Okay. So you were a forward in hockey, but a goalie in soccer.
Yeah, it was a weird one because
Yeah.
I think I was the hockey guy that came out to try out for the soccer team, and I couldn't commit to being there all the time, and it
Okay.
just seemed like it was the one position nobody wanted to play, so I went in there and I was okay, and I just ended up working my way up as a goalie.
Oh, okay, nice. Well, I love soccer. It's a great, soccer's great. I quite like it. Obviously didn't play at a super high level by any means, but I always loved playing soccer as a kid. Like it was so different than hockey. Like you kind of had to be a little bit more patient, I found, in soccer.
Oh, certainly. Now I find myself coaching soccer, my kids' Timbits teams, and T-ball in the summer, so now I'm figuring out what it's like to be a coach.
If you can get them not to just want to pick dandelions in soccer, that's a win. That is a big win. So yeah, you got drafted so you're out of Winnipeg, you get drafted in the Western League, and you played for the Rockets for a few years. Now you were young. Were you on that Memorial Cup team in 2005?
I was drafted that year, so
okay,
that was the year I got picked and didn't play for the team. I played midget, I guess U18 hockey back in Winnipeg that season, then joined the team after they won the Memorial Cup in Kelowna. The next season I made it as a 16, and we won the league still that year and went to the Memorial Cup in London, the Super Memorial Cup.
The 05 one with the London Knights.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that was your rookie season.
That was my rookie season.
Yeah. So you come in, you're 16. So you kind of know as a GM, like 16 in the dub is hard for lots of guys. It's hard. And I've seen some 16-year-olds who, you know what? We talk about the ones who make it, but there's lots that don't. How do you balance that when you're a GM of knowing which 16-year-olds to keep and knowing which ones that would benefit from maybe going back and whether it's play junior A or play midget AAA?
Yeah, I think it's very individual player, and a lot of times it comes down to where the team's at in their cycle. Like at the end of the day, if you're going to keep a 16, our philosophy here with 16-year-old players is if we're going to keep them, we want to be trying to play them almost every night if you can be. Like that's a guy really wants to be a legitimate roster player. And, in our league, the rules of having to play a 16-year-old in 40 games, you don't want to just keep a guy to play 40 games and scratch and claw at the end just to get them in and play 6 minutes a night. So certainly our philosophy has always been if we're going to keep guys, there's got to be a role for them. They have to be ready to play. Or, I remember when I was 16, arguably I probably shouldn't have played on the team that year. I ended up getting hurt early, but I only played 28 games. And, I thought maybe going back, and now that I look back on it, going back and playing another year of midget and being the guy and developing a little bit further probably would have been good for me. But when you're 16, 15 years old, you're from Winnipeg, you get an opportunity to move to Kelowna and play in the Western Hockey League. It's pretty hard to have a big picture idea at that age and want to go back and play, U18 hockey in Winnipeg. So, but yeah, trying to use some of those examples and put stuff into perspective on what's best for a player. And ultimately, it's a lot of times it's the parents are the ones that are in a rush for their kids to get there as quickly as possible, and just trying to set that up for them the best possible for them and their development. And the goal of every kid that plays in our league at 16 or goes back at 16 is that NHL draft year. They really want to be ready for that. So it's is playing here limited at 16 going to get you the most ready for that, or is maybe going back and coming and being ready to play right away with a bigger role better for your draft year?
So you ended up playing 4 years in the WHL. Then you finished as a 20-year-old in the USHL, and had your best offensive season by far. Kind of take me through that decision of that year.
Yeah, well, I was when I was in the Western League, I would, to be honest, I was like a third line center, kind of a gritty guy, up and down, good on faceoffs, penalty kill type player. I was on, I had the luxury of being on good teams. So I think when I got traded from Kelowna to Regina, they were starting to go through a rebuild, get traded to a pretty strong Regina Pat team to be the third line center. And that's kind of just what my niche always was there. And so when the 20-year-old season came around, as we know, there's only so many spots in our league. There's, at that time, there were 60 spots for 20-year-old players to be in the league. And I found myself on the outside looking in. So an opportunity presented itself to go to the USHL and play down there as a 20-year-old. And at the time, I didn't really know much about the league, but my advisor told me, outside the Western Hockey League, it's probably one of the better leagues to go to and play and, still get eyes on you with NHL guys and continuing to develop. And so I made that decision to go down there. And yeah, it was a fun year. Obviously, I had really good offensive numbers, probably. Well, we know it's not to the level of the Western Hockey League, but still good hockey and got to see another part of the world.
So then you're 20 years of age at that. And lots of, majority of players in the WHL, they want to go pro. That's just the reality of it, right? Doesn't happen for everybody. I think a lot of people would be surprised that 97% of players in the Western League don't play in the NHL. I always try to remind people that, it's great, it's hot. It just shows you how hard it is to get to the next level. So you're done as a 20-year-old in the USHL. Was it your decision? Obviously, you had scholarship money, so you could use that to go to U Sport. Were you considering it all, trying minor pro at that point, or were you like, I got to get an education?
Yeah, I was pretty keen on getting an education.
Okay.
Like I didn't have much thought of going to pro. I started talking to schools. I think it was in January of my 20-year-old year, and ended up going to visit about four different schools. And my focus, when I was looking at schools, is I knew I wanted to work in sports when I was older, and not necessarily in hockey, even just in sports. So trying to get a sport management degree was the goal. And, at the end of it, Waterloo and Brock University seemed to have the best sport management programs at the time that with schools that were recruiting me. So just felt like I had a little bit more of a connection with the coach in Waterloo, and ultimately made the decision to go there.
So it was as much, maybe more about education than it was about hockey at that point.
I would say certainly, yeah. Like I knew Waterloo has never been, a landing spot, I would say, for guys going back and playing U Sports when they leave the CHL. Now, we had some pretty good teams there, made the Nationals the one year, but I think hockey was probably secondary to getting into a program that was going to advance me and into a career one day. And the bonus was I got to play hockey and still, enjoy the sport.
So you then went into sports management, and you finish, you get your degree. Take me through the sports management and how it helped you get to and we'll get to being the GM of the Oil Kings in a second, but how, when you went through the courses, did it prepare you that well for this job?
That's a good, I feel like a lot of the things I've learned on this job are, you learn them when you have the job at the end of the day. It's from experience with the job and the different situations you deal with every day. I think going to school, I think one of the things it did prepare me with was, the job's a busy job. So time management is of the essence, or I think you get weeded out pretty quick if you can't handle like all the moving pieces. And I know when I was in school, I was full-time student athlete. I had a full slate of classes, and I worked at the same time. So I think from the time management perspective, I think that's the biggest thing it taught me when I was going to school. And I think the biggest things that I took when I got this job, I've always been able to really manage myself and my time really well, I feel.
Kurt Hill joins us on Who Is It Wednesday, of course, currently the GM of the Edmonton Oil Kings. So you spend 4 years in the Dub, then you're in the USHL for one season, then 4 years at University of Waterloo. You graduate there, you leave in 2013. And how do you go from there in that short of time? Like, what was your first gig? What was your first job out of university?
I feel like that's when the first decision, the big decision hit me, because I finished at Waterloo. We made the Nationals, kind of had a good finish to my university career. And then I got an internship in Ottawa with the Senators in marketing. So that summer, it started in May. So I went there with the idea of working there for 4 months. And as that's going on, UNB starts talking to me, New Brunswick, about coming and maybe playing. I still had a 5th year of eligibility left.
Right.
So do I want to go to UNB and do my master's so I could play for one more year and then get into some coaching the year after for my 6th year of school, my 2nd year of my master's. And then I also had some teams in Europe start reaching out and seeing, do you want to come play Division II in France, or some of the, obviously the lower level leagues, more of a life experience type thing. And
so
I went to Ottawa, ended up getting an offer to have a full-time marketing job there. And it just so happened that my girlfriend at the time was from Ottawa. So it just seemed like everything was probably set up pretty good in Ottawa to just get started with life and where the direction I was going in. So decided to bypass the playing hockey further and start my career. And it was in marketing with the Senators.
And how long did you stay there?
I stayed there until January of that year.
Okay. So
that
like
same year,
7 months,
7-8 months. Yeah. Really liked the job. And, but an opening had opened up at the Western Hockey League, and there's a gentleman there, and I'm sure you know who he is. His name was Jim Donlevy, who ran.
Yeah, I know Jim.
Yeah, Jim was obviously a football coach here in the city,
At
and
the U of A.
ran the scholarship program there. And I always had a great relationship with him. And they wanted to bring in a new alumni to run their player recruitment and the scholarship aspect of what to explain it to parents. And at the showcases, you go and present what the Western League's about, put on combine camps. So when that came up, Jim told me I should apply, and I guess long story short, I went to the Western League office, got an interview, and ended up being my really first job in, hockey ops, I would say.
So that's in January of 14. Is that correct?
January of 14.
January 14. So you take that gig, you move from Ottawa to now. Where was your main office for that? Where did you reside?
We were at Father David Bauer.
Okay, in Calgary.
Right in Calgary.
Okay.
So moved to Calgary. Yep.
And so when you take that job, you had mentioned earlier that maybe you were going to do coaching. So were you still unsure of exactly, like, did you think coaching was still in your future? Were you thinking management? Did you know at that point what you wanted to do?
Yeah, at that time, I think I was like, okay, there's opportunities to work in hockey. I mean, I never really had explored them too much through school and didn't really look at coaching much, I would say. And even it never really had crossed my mind that I want to be a Western Hockey League GM. And I mean, I think it was just the perfect job for not only networking, but understanding the Western Hockey League and really getting a full picture of what the different jobs are that are out there with clubs and even at the league level. So I felt like over the course of time there, it really started to give me a clear picture on what I wanted to do and what my, I guess, major goals were as we move through the career.
Kurt Hill joins us. So we'll take a quick break, and you start out in the WHL as an alumnus, and then lo and behold, you just start climbing up the ladder to suddenly be getting to a GM. So I want to know how we went from A to G for the GM. We'll find out next on the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440 Orders Nation YouTube, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Hey, it's Kevin Carius. Looking for a truck? Looking for a deal? Then head over to St. Albert Dodge. Right now, save up to $20,000 on 2024 Ram 1500 DT model trucks, including the Sport, the Rebel, Laramie, and Limited Line. It's been a long time since we've seen anything like that. And if you need one more reason to buy, remember that the 2024 Ram 1500 models are the last year of production, featuring the legendary Hemi V8. Head up the trail to see how easy it is to do business at St. Albert Dodge.
Raise a smoothie to any friend you've had since 1999. That's a good friend. And Booster Juice was there. Now celebrating 25 years in Canada and more than 450 locations from coast to coast. A silver anniversary splashed with lots of oranges. Celebrate 25 years of Booster Juice with the return of OG favorite smoothies like the Marathon, the Original, and the Orangesicle. Made with oranges, orange sorbet, and vanilla frozen yogurt. Happy 25th Booster Juice. Download the Booster Rewards app today.
The job isn't done until the last load is hauled, and having a semi-trailer out of commission is not an option. Whether replacing or adding to your convoy, Edmonton Trailer has a huge inventory of new and used semi-trailers, trusted by the gravel, logging, oil field, fluids, and freight industries. Find a trailer right for you online or at one of their 3 locations. For sales, service, parts, rental, and finance. When you're in it for the long haul, Edmonton Trailer.
When it comes to your health, trust Dr. Bryce Henderson for expert care in hip and knee replacements. With years of experience and advanced techniques, Dr. Henderson helps you regain your mobility and quality of life.
Your health is my priority. Let's get you back to doing what you love.
Put your health in the hands of a trusted expert. Book your consultation with Dr. Henderson today. Visit vitalsurgicalspecialist.ca or call 587-391-7864.
Some things just work together. Sticks and pucks, cleats and AstroTurf. your love for the game, and Papa John's passion for better ingredients, better pizza. Nothing pairs with the game like Papa John's. Crafted with signature sauce, toppings, and original fresh dough. They're the champion of pizza. And now you're the champion of winning deals. Just order at papajohns.ca. Use promo code SPORTS20 and score 20% off any regular menu price order. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's. That's SPORTS20.
Ain't it beautiful?
What does excellence mean to you, and how does it impact your decisions? Friends, it's Carrie Dahl, and I know that at Volvo Cars Edmonton, excellence isn't an option, it's their everything. From customer satisfaction in sales, service, inventory, and retention, they excel in all. Congratulations, Volvo Cars Edmonton, Canada's only 12-time Volvo Excellence Award winners.
Volvo of Edmonton.
At Toyota, we believe your vehicle is more than just a ride. It's family. So make sure it's prepared for whatever Mother Nature has in store. Because winter's a lot like some people's in-laws. It's cold, shows up unexpectedly, and refuses to leave. Trust the experts at Toyota for premium winter tires, batteries, brakes, and more. Beat the winter rush. Book an appointment at shoptoyota.ca or contact your local Toyota dealer today.
.323. We got a lot of text flooding. People are fired up about G. Roy Simon. Also, we'll get to that. Got a lot of text coming in as well for our guest today. And Who Is It Wednesday? The general manager of the Edmonton Oil Kings, Kurt Hill, of course, former alumni of the WHL, spent 4 years in the league with Kelowna and Regina, then a year in the USHL, then 4 years playing for Waterloo, got a sports management degree, then started working for the Ottawa Senators for 8 months. Then got a job with the Western Hockey League, and you were with the WHL for about 3.5 years, Kurt. So as you're working for the WHL, did your responsibility kind of change and evolve over those 3.5 years? Kind of give us a glimpse of what you were doing for the league overall.
Yeah, when I first got there, it was primarily based around recruitment of the young players. So it was going to a lot of the Alberta Cups of the world and a lot of these marquee events throughout the year, and doing presentations to the players, doing presentations to the parents, and really giving them an understanding of what the Western League's all about. What are the benefits of playing in the league? How does the scholarship package work? So it was, primarily a job in the recruitment realm. And as things progressed, we started running a lot more events through the Western Hockey League office that I was involved in. And we started a combine program initiative. We had a U.S. prospect camp down in the United States every year that I ran. And I feel like later on, kind of near the end, it started to grow more into a responsibility of creating a program at the Western Hockey League office that they call the Players First program. And that was really bringing initiatives on like Canadian Mental Health and the Canadian Red Cross, our police liaison program. So a lot of those extra learning initiatives that our players do for kind of their health and safety and the benefits of the players off the ice, I really had a strong role in, bringing a lot of those programs to the league or building on programs that were already there.
So you're there for 3.5 years, but I know that there's at times, like I remember, I've talked to a few people who worked for the NHL, and then they're like, well, I didn't want to work for the league, so I had to get out, because if you work for the league too long, people view you as a league person. And there's not anything wrong with that, but if you want to do more than work for a league, it can be challenging. So did you think of, because if I can work for the WHL for a long time, then I could eventually go work for the NHL. There's kind of that progression. But you were more interested, I'm assuming, in wanting to work, for a team individually. And if so, why?
Yeah, I remember thinking about it back then, and it's when you work from the league, I mean, you're there for all 22 teams. And I once I decided, like, okay, I'm back in hockey ops, I'm back in the game. It's the one thing that I really started to miss was the wins and losses. Okay. At the end of the day, you want to be a part of something. You want to try to be a part of the playoffs and build something and try to win a championship again. And really at the league office, it's I mean, that's just something that doesn't happen there. So
Everybody's a winner.
everybody's a winner. So I started to make that realization, and you start to think like, if I'm going to continue to work at the league, do I end up just being a league employee the rest of my life? And like what you said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's great. And people have gone on to have great careers there, and who knows, maybe it would have blossomed into something bigger in a league administrative role. But I kind of felt like I wanted to get back on with the team and started to, reach out to different avenues and ways I could do that. And, one of the big things that interested me a lot was scouting. And, I thought it was going to be tough to get on to scout with a team in our league at that time, having been a league employee. I didn't know if a team would actually be willing to take me away from the league.
Right.
Because those are important roles too, and they don't want to leave the league shorthanded. So started to talk to NHL teams, and it sparked a relationship with one of the scouts in Chicago.
And you got your first scouting gig. You were the regional scout in the Western Hockey League. They had kind of their main scout, and then you were number 2 you did that for a full season in Chicago. What was the biggest learning aspect of scouting for you?
Oh, I think the biggest takeaways for me were the meetings that I would go to, like the scout meetings in Chicago. There was a large staff there. I would say, the meetings. I remember our scout meetings, there'd probably be close to 30 to 40 people sitting around the table at those meetings. And, I think to my job now, and what I took from those meetings is, I think one of the strengths we have in Edmonton is the draft and how we're prepared for it, and how we, the information that we like to utilize on draft day, and how we run our draft meetings throughout the year with. We have 14 area scouts for our team and a head scout. So I think that side of it, I took a lot of knowledge from, and have translated a lot of that over to what we do here in Edmonton now.
So you're with the Chicago Blackhawks for a year, and then you're the GM of the Oil Kings. How'd that come about?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was in Spokane. I remember I was watching Ty Smith play, obviously one of the big prospects at that time, Alberta boy, and he was playing for the Chiefs. And our head scout with Chicago at the time, Mark Kelly, was coming in, and we were going to watch Ty play for 2 games in Spokane. And we started to have a conversation there at the game, and he asked me, if I had any interest in trying to become a GM in the Western League. And, it had crossed my mind in the past, but you get a job with an NHL team. When I got that job, I was like, geez, I could probably do this for the next 20 years if I keep getting contracts and keep doing it. It's it's kind of a dream job at that point. And, Mark told me that Edmonton had reached out. They were potentially going to have an opening with their GM position and wanted to interview me. And I still remember this conversation in the car at the time. He's like, do you think that's something you'd want to do? And I said no at the start.
Really?
I did, because I was worried. I didn't know what the reaction was going to be from my bosses in Chicago. Like, what's the right answer? I was pretty young. I was 29 years old. I'm in a pretty good job that I'm really enjoying. And I remember I told them no to start. And then, I remember Stan Bowman called me the next day and had a conversation with me about it, and said, at the end of the day, you can probably scout for a long time, and you could always go back to scouting, but these types of opportunities don't come up very often. So you should definitely go there and interview. And if you have the opportunity to take that job, I would highly encourage you to do that.
So that gave you all right, I'll go for the interview process. And so because you got hired 18, 19. So Chiarelli's the GM of the Oilers. Bob Nicholson's the president, CEO at that time. So I'm assuming those were the guys interviewing you?
Yes. Yeah. It was Peter Chiarelli, Keith Gretzky, and Bob Nicholson. Yep.
Okay. Take me through, if you can, here you are. And now this is your first ever interview for a GM job in the WHL.
Yes.
Yeah. So you never been interviewed for a job like that. So did you come in? Because I remember Ed Hervey telling me when he got interviewed for a GM job, he came in with an outline of his plan, right? He looked at the organization, what they're going to do. Did you do that? What were you doing heading into the interview?
Yeah, it was interesting. The interview piece that I think I had maybe gained a little bit of knowledge was when I interviewed in Chicago. I went to Chicago, and it was Stan Bowman, Al McIsaac, and John McDonough who interviewed me. It was interesting. So I was extremely nervous, obviously, for that job. And I went into the interview completely having no clue what they were going to ask me. Like, I remember I had kind of written out Wikipedia pages. Like, I knew the history of the team in case they were going to go that direction. Like, I was kind of prepared from all angles, and everything I had prepared for, they didn't ask me a single question. So then I was like, okay, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for the job in Edmonton, I think just from having been in the league, having worked there and understanding the nuances, having a pretty good idea on what the Oil Kings were at that time. And a lot of their prospects were guys that I had recruited into the league or I had helped recruit. I had talked
Okay.
to their parents. So
Yeah.
I didn't come in with a binder or a PowerPoint presentation of my plan, but I came in understanding what my plan was going to be and reiterated that when they asked me questions.
Can you share, like, what were some of the questions you get asked when you're in a GM interview for the Western League?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest areas I think of focus in that interview process was understanding how I was going to develop the team through the draft.
Okay.
What was my plan with my scouting staff? What was my plan with the draft and strategy around drafting players, gaining knowledge on players? Like that area was something I think we talked about a lot and the strategy behind that. And I remember, I was a younger guy in the interview at the time, so they talked to me a lot about maybe new things I wanted to do that wasn't happening in the Western League at the time. And then there was a lot of questions too about being a young GM and how I was going to deal with situations on player behavior, and obviously with how I was going to deal with a coach that I hired. If I was going to hire an older coach and he's, maybe trying to take advantage of a younger GM. Like there was a lot of questions on being a young person in the game and how I was going to deal with those the stresses and the pressure points that were going to come with it.
Do you remember your answers? What were your answers to those questions?
Word for word, I do not remember.
No.
I think that side of the interview, I don't think I was as much prepared for.
Okay.
Maybe a little naive. They were going to ask me a lot of those questions. I thought it was going to be a lot more hockey based, where a lot of it ended up being about how I was going to manage the players on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Which, now that you've had the job, because you started in 18-19, correct? That was your first season?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and you had turned 30 in January of 2018. So you're 30 years of age to start the 18-19 season, one of the youngest GMs ever. Now, I think Scheike was 28 in the NHL, so it's happened, but it's pretty rare. He's got in for the Red Sox, so younger guys. Do you feel, so when you came in, now you're the GM of the Edmonton Oil Kings. When you went into your first GM's meeting and you got a bunch of guys who've been in the league 20 years, right? 25 plus years, I got to think they're like, oh yeah, here's some young blood and we're going to be able to take advantage of you.
I think some of the first trade offers I got, I was a little prepared to play them. I'll say that for sure. I was like, oh, it doesn't seem about right, but it's a good try, I guess. I guess on the flip side too, it was when you start making deals too, you'll never forget the first ones you make, because you're like, geez, are these going to work out?
Yeah,
And, like, these are obviously important for you, showing that you have good direction and good ideas and philosophies coming to the organization. And so I certainly remember making trades early on and being a little bit nervous to pull the trigger. Now I've made a lot of big ones and I've gone all in and done a lot of things. So those ones were definitely harder to make once I got in there. But I think I remember early on starting out, probably the first 3 months of my attention was getting to know the players as much as possible, getting to know their parents, and understanding what they thought needed to be better in Edmonton. And then it was finding a coach, which looking back on it, I think the thing that allowed me the most wiggle room to have success and learn as I was starting as a young GM was hiring the coach I hired and the job that he did. It just gave me, it gave me confidence our team was going to do on the ice, because he did an exceptional job with the team that I hadn't really built before I got here.
Right.
And that was probably one of the things that really helped me get off the ground running.
So you look at that Oil Kings team that year, and you had hired Brad Lauer as your first head coach. What was it? And Brad's back in the NHL now. What was it about Brad that he was the right guy for you?
Yeah, in the interview, I interviewed 6 coaches. Sit down interviews. I remember I probably talked to 20 on the phone.
Oh, wow.
And then I went pretty thorough with it, I would say.
Yeah.
Wouldn't say I knew what I was doing 100%, but I was thorough with it. That's for sure. I spent a lot of time doing it.
Yeah.
I remember I met with 4 coaches at the draft that year, because I was still working for Chicago, had the job with the Oil Kings, and was interviewing coaches. And no better place to interview coaches than at the NHL draft, because they're all there. And a lot of the guys that don't have jobs at the time go there to look for jobs. And,
right.
I remember meeting with Brad, and one of the biggest things is he was extremely prepared for questions on the younger players and coaching the younger generation. He had 2 daughters at the time that were 14 and 16 years old.
Oh, so he understood kind of the mindset of a teenager.
He did.
Yeah.
And I felt like he was ready for that. And, some of the other coaches, great coaches, but some of them had been in the American League and the East Coast League. And I just felt more comfortable that Brad was going to be ready for the younger player and be able to handle that.
Well, it obviously worked out, because what was it, year 4 of the Oil Kings. You guys won in 22, right? Brad was the head coach. You're the GM. So when you hire a coach like that and you're the GM, take us through kind of the mindset of the loyalty factor that you feel when you hire someone and you want it to be right. So you want to give them opportunity. And, thankfully you didn't have to go to the position where you had to fire the guy, because I'm sure that would be difficult. But just kind of building that rapport and the relationship and how it's strengthened. What was kind of the communication? What was your plan of approach that would work well between GM and coach?
Oh, when I got here, I was 100% like full collaboration. I wanted to learn as much as I could. Like I came in, not acting like I knew it all, because I didn't.
Yeah.
And I wanted to use all my staff. Resources like Rogan Dean, who have been with the Oil Kings pretty much since day one. Like,
Yeah.
I remember all of our meetings early on, and it's really pretty much the same nowadays, as everybody gets a voice. And especially in those early days, I learned from a lot of the staff that were there. And I used Brad and asked him a lot of questions about things, got his opinion on a ton with even things I was dealing with the league. And I had Luke Pierce there too, had been a head coach in the league as well.
Right.
So I had really good people that surrounded me, and I tried to just learn as much as I could from them as I was trying to learn the job at the same time.
Kurt Hill joins us. So Kurt, you've been the GM since 18-19. And what was the biggest unexpected learning curve as a GM in the WHL?
Oh, I would say from today, the biggest thing that maybe learning curve, the biggest thing I wasn't prepared for was going through a rebuild.
Okay.
Yeah. When we made the decision, again, COVID influenced some things because we had a great team.
Yes.
And probably the actual COVID year is our best
Would have
team.
been your best team, yes. I
You
agree.
don't have to make as many moves. You probably have to make one big splash on the back end. And I felt like we had a chance to win that year. Now you get through the COVID year and you have all those guys that have been there, been loyal to you, have been chomping at the bit to win. You have great players. So now you got to, I felt an obligation to go all in and try to win with those guys. And we did that. But then the next year, I really didn't know how hard it would be to go through a rebuild. And not the fact, I think I was prepared to move players and accumulate picks. Like that side of things was really easy. But the day-to-day of the grind and understanding, I could always escape it because I could go scout. I could go look at my draft picks and understand, hey, it's looking good. The future is going to be good. But at the end of the day, like the guys that are living it every day in the coach's office and those tough days and the players and watching what they're going through, I was not prepared for that at all. And maybe that's because I was never on a team that was bad either. I had no experience with that. And that was something that if I had to do it again, I'd be a lot more prepared for. I don't know if I would do anything different, but I think I'd be able to manage the people and help them get through it.
So that's an interesting point when you mention how you would have managed them different. In what sense?
I think just understand. Well, I don't think I always put as much thought into what they were going through on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
When you lose 8 games in a row,
Yep.
I'm not coming down there saying, hey guys, we have to win the next game. Like this is do or die here.
Yeah.
It was about the development of the young players, but I think it's just probably having more meaningful conversations along the way with them and understanding and maybe reinforcing the belief you have in them as you're going through those hard times. Now, I would do that every once in a while, but I think if I was going through it again, I would probably do it more because I think there were different points of the season where not just the coaches, but all the staff they dealt with some pretty tough times at the end of the day. And even the players.
Yeah. Losing continually is not fun, right? When you go into a game and you're like, we're probably not winning tonight. And there were some nights where you're like, oh, we might get blown out tonight. And that's mentally hard for anyone. Especially, it's younger players and some of them are like, geez, maybe I'm not going to be in the league anymore because, or I'm not good. And then their confidence goes because you got some young players who most players probably haven't been on that bad of a team right before. And it just happens. It's just the cycle of it. You in the WHL, you kind of build up and, you'd love for it to be less painful. I don't know if I've ever seen a team really do it less painful. Like it's hard not to. And there's teams that go in and never win. Right. So at least you could kind of look back. And say, well, at least we won. It was worth it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It would have probably been 100 times harder if we hadn't won. And there's that side of it too. And I think from the player standpoint, again, we had a lot of really good young players. You're not getting the results on the ice because, in the Western League, having good young players doesn't win you hockey games at the end of the day. And even those guys, I think there was times throughout that probably year and a half where I was like, are they actually getting better?
Yeah. Okay.
Are they going to be mentally maybe, drained and damaged enough from just losing for so long that are we going to get out of this as a group? And there was a little bit of a fear of that, I would say, for sure, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then we get to Christmas last year. We had been injured a lot. Things hadn't gone how we planned. And it was, that's where it was, I felt it was time, okay, let's make a big move here. And let's bring in, when we brought Sachin in, I felt like it was like a message to our group, like, okay, this is done. Like, let's start going.
Yeah.
And guys had kind of started to take a step, I felt. Some of our younger players, 17-year-olds, where I thought that was going to ignite the group, and it certainly did.
Kurt Hill, the GM of the Edmonton Oil Kings, joins us on Who Is It Wednesday. So we've gone through the whole process. When we come back, we'll talk about, hey, winning's great. Rebuilding obviously is tough. Now trying to become competitive again, and the importance of that. Up next on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
They are nice, tasting just so right. You can order Oodle Noodle at oodlenoodle.ca, delivering you the news almost right away. Remember, you can order Oodle Noodle at oodlenoodle.ca. So stay on your couch all day and order oodlenoodle.ca. Oodle Noodle.
You'll see us digging holes. No, we're not looking for buried treasure. You'll see us digging trenches as well. And no, we're not building a fort. We're GS Construction, and you'll see us in neighborhoods throughout the Edmonton area. So what are we doing? GS Construction provides rehabilitation and upgrade services to Edmonton and surrounding communities. Some of our underground utilities have served us for years and are past their useful lives. We replace them, so they're around for years to come. Find out more at gsconstruction.ca.
Hockey is back, and Play Alberta, Alberta's #1 sportsbook and official partner of the Edmonton Oilers, has you covered with bigger offers, boosted odds, live betting, player props, and more. New to Play Alberta? New players now receive $200 in free bets just for signing up. You already play? Get a $10 free bet for every $100 you bet. Every week, all season long. Visit playalberta.ca and make your picks today. Bonus terms and conditions apply.
I'm Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. And I'm Zach Hyman. And when we're not making juicy, sweet passes or having my goals disallowed, we're working for Legacy Heating and Cooling. You know, guys used to call me a plumber. And now they call you an HVAC technician. Nice.
Hey, guys, you're not here to install furnaces. You're here to sing the jingle.
Oh.
Well.
Okay. Call Legacy. Call Legacy.
No payments and no interest for 1 year from qualified installers. Legacy Heating and Cooling.
Gateway Toyota treats us like we're precious gems.
Because that's what we are.
Every vehicle purchased from Gateway Toyota includes enrollment into their GEM program. It stands for Gateway Exclusive Membership.
And it gives you 5-year access to over $2,500 in benefits.
Free oil changes.
Free tire and windshield repair.
Free car washes.
Even an annual detailing.
You'll also get special discounts, trade-in bonuses, and referral rewards.
I feel like a gem.
At Gateway Toyota, just off Calgary Trail at Ellerslie Road.
A delicious new deal is at Tim's. $3 for a classic breakfast sandwich when you buy any size hot or iced coffee. You heard that right. Just $3 for a classic breakfast sandwich with Canada's favorite coffee. Terms apply. See app for details.
It's time for Tim's.
When was the last time your electricity and natural gas provider made you feel like this? Low rates, no strings attached, year-round perks, and local energy experts who always have your back. With Encore by EPCOR. Find that carefree energy feeling at encore.epcor.com/carefree.
Customers are free to purchase natural gas or electricity services from a retailer of their choice. For a list of retailers, visit ucahelps.alberta.ca or call 310
Rolling through. Who is it Wednesday on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. It is the Jason Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca. It is Lotto 649 Wednesday. Get your tickets at PlayAlberta.ca. We are joined by the GM of the Edmonton Oil Kings. Of course, won a championship with the Oil Kings in 2022. Had his first season with the Oil Kings at 18-19. Had to deal through the COVID years. Championship now coming out of the rebuild. You know what? You've had great fan support. 2 years consecutive without the playoffs, but both years led in attendance. So Kevin Radomski and that side of the business has done a very good job. People love coming to the Oil Kings games, and your team's going to be more exciting. You've got some good young players. You've kind of accumulated them. So as you know, winning's not that easy. I think you would know better than most of us, right? Like, to win's great, and you just want to have a chance for the next 3 years, essentially. Like, is that the viewpoint of the GM to say, okay, our next 3 years, we should have a competitive team every year?
Yeah, certainly in junior, I think it's, when you go all in to win, you're going to take your lumps a little bit, and then you get to a point where, where we are right now, where you have a good roster, you have good age groups, you feel like you're balanced throughout the lineup, you have a lot of draft picks in consecutive drafts, so you say here's an opportunity to have strong rosters for a lot of years if you want to. But now I think at some point you got to make a decision again. When do you go? When do you push again?
Okay.
And when's that timing? So it's, again, I feel like it's an organization that has a history of winning, a culture of winning, that at some point, I know, like OEG in general, the goal is to win championships. So at some point, you're probably going to look at it again and say, okay, when's our time to go all in again?
So how do you balance that as a GM? Because it's everybody out there, lots of people will play fantasy hockey. They play they'll make trades there, but you're not trading actual people. You're trading, somebody. So you're dealing with actual people. And so you get to know the kids and geez, I really like this guy, and great player, a great person, maybe more than anything else. And you're going to bring it in. So, because there's no guarantee it works. So how do you balance that on when's the right time to go in?
Yeah, I think it's very season dependent. I felt like the last time we did it, we were going to do it anyways, but I look back on it and I felt like it was a year where there weren't 8 teams that were going for it.
Right.
There was probably 2 to 3 legitimate teams that were going to push it all in to go for it. And I feel like those years when you already have a really good team, there's teams behind you that are going to have to significantly add to probably catch up. And you're looking at it, okay, maybe there's 4 teams that are legitimate contenders this year.
Okay.
Like, I feel like that's an area where it makes it a lot more comfortable to go for it at the end of the day, if you know what I'm saying in that regard. It makes it, you're hedging your bet. We have a 25% chance of probably winning it. And if we add enough, we're probably the top of the 4. So maybe you make your chances a little bit better at the end of the day. And you trust your players, you trust your coaches, and a little bit of it is off that feel too.
So as you become a more competitive team, there's the balance, because, your young guys are going to come in and it's going to be harder to make a lineup. It's just how it is. Like, for years, the Edmonton Oilers brought in young players and everybody got tons of opportunities. Now the young guys can barely get in, and it's no different than in the WHL for 16-year-olds. Now you have Lee and Aginla as 2 16-year-olds. Noah Tamu, is that how I say his name?
Yes. Yeah.
Is the plan to have him here? I know he's played 1 of the 3 games, or do you think it's more realistic that you're going to go with 2 16s most of the year?
Yeah, that's still a conversation for, I think, both Lee and Tamu. They've both have played extremely well. And, one of the things on D now, we'll see how the season goes, but it just seems like every year since I've had this job, you almost need at least 8, at least. And you still might have to go trade for a guy at some point. It just seems like that's how it is throughout our league. So
why do you think there's so many injuries?
I think the game is just so fast now, and the speed has multiplied, and obviously the contact, the equipment is better. I don't think guys hit each other as hard as they did back in the day. And I think there's also an element of it where I don't know if there is as much of a mutual respect amongst the players as there used to be.
Really?
I think it used to be a little bit more. Guys used to, there used to be, not that I'm a promoter of fighting in our game, and not that I'm saying that's the answer to this, but I just feel like guys don't mutually respect each other there as much. And I just see there's so many slew foots in our game nowadays. There's so many scrums where guys take each guys down from the back. Like, I just feel like there's a lot of that goes on and then when I say mutual respect, I look at instances like that where you're putting another guy in danger. That's not a face-to-face act. And I think that leads to a lot of stuff, and that just compounds the guys that actually get hurt.
Do you think the fear factor is lower now? Because before, if you cheap shot a guy, you probably had to pay the price. Someone's going to drop the gloves and pound you. And there's not much of that in the game anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Again, a lot of the guys in our league nowadays, I mean, from when I played, there was some pretty tough characters in the league, some really scary guys. I mean, there's that. I wasn't going to do anything. I would tell you that much. And nowadays, I mean, there's guys in our league that are super tough. Like you saw Corbet at Oiler training camp. He's a very tough player. But at the end of the day, like I remember going to Kelowna Rockets camp and Dwight King was there, DJ King's brother, and he was scary. And he was a big guy. I feel like that difference in size of the player now and the guys that had the role as tough guys back in the day has changed a lot in junior.
Oh, 100%. And I think there is the trickle down effect. So you can have more rats if there's no one with a broom smacking them every now and then.
Certainly.
Yeah. But you kind of want a rat on your team, but maybe it's maybe you can't necessarily have a respectful rat, but I think in ways you can, guys who they know how to play gritty and tough, but because you don't really want guys slew footing. Because if you slow foot someone, eventually someone's going to get mad. They're going to slew foot you. That's usually how it works. It might not be the next game, might not be that shift, but it might be, 3 games down the road.
Oh yeah. There's 100% that's going to come back to you. And again, I find a lot of the guys too now that, have a little bit more of a role, play a little bit more on edge. They're usually pretty good players in our league at the same time. Like we've had guys come through here. I think of, Jackson Weeb is a good example of a player. Like he was a pretty tough player, a great 200 foot player, good on faceoffs. Like he had a big role in our team on the penalty kill. And at the end of the day, he was the guy that, would answer the bell sometimes and stand up for guys on our team. But he wasn't just purely there for that reason. Like he was on our third line and scored a hat trick in the Memorial Cup. Like he's still a good player.
Yeah, very good player. Kurt Hill joins us. So Kurt, as you go through the GM process, I know this is always hard. You've been a GM now in the league for 6 years. You're only 36 years of age, extremely young. What's the long-term aspirations? Is NHL GM, like, is it too obvious for me to say that that's aspiration, or what else is there for a GM in the WHL?
Yeah, certainly. I think its aspirations are to get to the NHL level and in management in some capacity. I think, management is an area that I feel like I've been in here, and that's where, to say you want to be, everybody wants to be a GM in the NHL, but for understanding the pyramid of like the jobs, it gets pretty narrow at the top. There's 32 NHL teams or 60 teams in the CHL. I guess the AHL has some general managers and assistant GMs, but to work in a front office in the NHL would be something that I would aspire to do at some point.
Because you look like there's been some guys who have made an unbelievable career being GMs in the Western League for a long, long time, but not many of them started at a young age like you. And so so how do you balance that where, that's like, okay, that's an aspiration, but I have to make sure that I'm 100% respectful of the job I'm doing. How do you balance that?
Yeah. I mean, it's when you're in it, when you're in the seasons, I find my attention is on my team at the end of the day. When you're day to day and you're in the grind of a season, it's pretty tough to be distracted in other areas, I would say. And, I've always had the approach with any job I've had is if you do a good job where you're at, you treat your people well and you have success, at some point, somebody's probably going to come in and give you a tap, or you're going to get the opportunity to get an interview or have conversations with people. And I think there's a side of it that always goes back to networking. And I feel like when I was in the Western League office, it was almost like an element of forced networking because I worked for the league. Every GM had to talk to me. Every head scout had to talk to me. Owners, I got to know owners. So I was in a position where they had to talk to me anyway. So I was networking with them through my job. And I guess it's a little bit the same now. I get the opportunity to talk to Oilers management. I get to talk to other teams management.
Like St. Louis Blues, because they just drafted Jekko. I'm assuming they check in with you. Hey, what are you thinking? What are you seeing? Do NHL teams say, hey, we'd like you to play him in this situation?
No, they're really good about it. They really connect us with their player development staff. And it's more about working on the intricacies of their game and areas that they really want to improve on. And oftentimes their development staff will come in. They have, strength and conditioning coaches that come in, skating coaches, and they work with the player throughout the season. And some of the development coaches that we've had they've been fantastic. Like they come into the coach's office and they go on the ice with our players, and they're there to help a specific guy, but they're like, oh yeah, give me like 4 or 5 other guys. I'll work with them too while I'm doing this. Numbers are great.
Yeah.
So you can really, on some of those relationships that blossom into something more, you selfishly get a little bit more than just the staff that you have with you.
Yeah, that obviously helps. No question about it. If you could get one, because earlier there's something you said that really stood out, because I do think it's true. How you mentioned how sometimes the biggest challenge for young 16-year-olds is the parents who feel they've got to be there and they're pushing and pushing. So what's your advice to parents when they bring their kids to the WHL? What's the best advice you would give to a parent?
It's really hard because I view it back to when I was that age, and my parents, again, there's probably a lot of money back then. I remember my parents playing AAA hockey in Winnipeg. It was like $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting scholarship money to go to the Western Hockey League. And I look back at parents now, though, and I could see for some of them why it is a rush, because it's $30,000 a year to play for an academy. It's $15,000 a year to play minor hockey, probably in your home association. And I mean, you got 2 or 3 kids, some of them that are playing. It's a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
The quicker they can get to the Western League, it's a financial burden, but I mean, it's uplifting you from some of that. But at the end of the day, the advice would be, it's when you're with an organization and they draft you and they're investing in you. Like, I specifically think about our league and it being a draft league. It's in the best interest of our teams to develop you as a player.
Yeah.
You get picked high, first, second, third round. Like, those players, at the end of the day, if we want to have success as teams, we have to develop those players the right way. So I would say it's not often there's teams in our league that are sending those players back because they're being vindictive.
No.
They're really, it's
because it's for the best I totally agree with you. They look and say, hey, not going to get to play here a lot. Maybe we have a really deep team. Maybe we have a lot of right defensemen this year, and your son just happens to be a right defender, right? So this isn't the year for them. And I don't know any player I don't care if you go from the NHL to the American League or wherever it is, if you go down and you play really well and your confidence is high, that somehow you regress as a player. I can't think of one example where that's happened.
No, it doesn't. And in all the situations where we've sent guys back to play another year, it's worked out really well. And I can say the flip side of guys that we have kept too early, it hasn't worked out as well.
Yeah.
I even remember the conversation with Sebastian Cossa when he was 16. And he was a pretty good goalie at camp. Probably could have made our team, but you're going to sit here and be the backup all year. And I mean, we want to take a step as a group. We have a 20-year-old goaltender. It just didn't make sense at the time.
Yeah.
Now, for him, he was pissed when we sent him down.
Yeah.
Didn't play very good when he first went to Fort Saskatchewan either. But again, in the long term, he got to play 35 games as a starter that year. Minor hockey. He came in the next year and ends up getting drafted in the first round of the NHL. So it's, again, I think a lot of times it's, when you're drafted to an organization, like I said, it's in their best interest to develop you as a player, and they're going to try to make the best decision to what they feel with where they're at in their cycle and what's going to be best for the individual player.
And lastly, Kurt, give me your thoughts. Of course, you guys are back in action. You get one of your best players back from Florida's camp on Friday. So I think now you have all your players back, which is exciting. So do other teams around the league. But I look at your roster, safe to say, like, barring something tragic, you should be a playoff team this year.
Yeah, I feel confident that we're going to be able to take a step and get in the playoffs this year for sure.
Kurt, thanks so much for this. We'll talk to you throughout the year.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That is Kurt Hill, GM of the Edmonton Oil Kings, another edition of Who Is It Wednesday, as we'll get to Connor Halley and a Sports 1440 update brought to you by Fountain Tire. Once again, Fountain Tire, just want to express a big thank you to everybody who helped out as they teamed up with Sports Central and Bike Drive to get bikes for kids, and over 1,273 bikes. So that's 1,273 kids are going to be having way more fun than they would have been having. So awesome. Big thank you to Sports Central and Fountain Tire.
This is the Sports 1440 update.
Game day as the preseason rolls on. Oilers in Seattle taking on the Kraken. The puck drop just after 8 o'clock elsewhere. Preds, Canes, Lightning, Panthers, the Flames in Winnipeg, and the Ducks hosting the Hockey Club from Utah. The Boston Bruins have claimed goaltender Yuri Patera off waivers from the Vancouver Canucks. Patera, 25, signed a 2-year deal worth $1.55 million this offseason with the Canucks. A 6'3" netminder appeared in 6 games last season in Vegas, going 1-3-1. Major League Baseball today, the Detroit Tigers finishing their series against the Houston Astros, winning 2-0, 5-2 today. Right now in the 5th, the Orioles trail the Royals 1-0 Kansas City leads that series 1-0. Later tonight, the Brewers look to stay alive when they host the Mets at 5:30. And at 6:30, the Padres will try to complete the sweep over the Atlanta Braves. Toronto Blue Jays stay in the course in 2025. Both General Manager Ross Atkins and Manager John Schneider will return for their roles. The team added that Don Mattingly would shift from helping to oversee the offense to a more traditional bench coach role. And Shapiro saying that he expects the payroll to remain in the same range for the 2025 season. Cleveland Browns star running back Nick Chubb returned to practice today, the first time since suffering a grotesque season-ending knee injury more than a year ago. The four-time Pro Bowler not likely to play Sunday in Washington, but is expected to be active for a game in the month of October. Coming up in Hour 3 of the Jason Gregor Show, we will be joined by the voice of the Seattle Kraken, Everett Fitzhugh, and ask 5 questions. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440, Stingray radio station. CKJR broadcasts from West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin.
Download the free Stingray music app and listen wherever you go.
The locks are on a timer. They're going to get out.
Sounds like a job for the men and women of Action Electrical.
Service team reporting. With the remarkable reach of our bucket trucks and other equipment, we assess, service, and maintain your electrical lighting and automation systems.
Facing an electrical menace? Call the men and women of Action. Operating throughout Alberta at actionelectrical.net.
Some things just work together. Sticks and pucks, cleats and AstroTurf. Your love for the game and Papa John's passion for better ingredients, better pizza. Nothing pairs with the game like Papa John's. Crafted with signature sauce, toppings, and original fresh dough. They're the champion of pizza. And now you're the champion of winning deals. Just order at papajohns.ca. Use promo code SPORTS20 and score 20% off any regular menu price order. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's. That's Sports20.
Hey, sports fans, we've got a clear choice for you. At Crystal Glass, we provide customers with the perfect glass for any job. From home to auto and even commercial, installation or repairs, we're your team. Call 310 Glass or visit crystalglass.ca. Crystal Glass.
This is Kevin Carries from Sports 1440. Join me at Century Sports Bar and Lounge for a big watch party. We'll be showing the first big game of the season this Friday at 8 p.m. That's the Sports Bar at Century Casino, Fort Road, Edmonton. We will see you there.
A delicious new deal is at Tim's. $3 for a classic breakfast sandwich when you buy any size hot or iced coffee. You heard that right. Just $3 for a classic breakfast sandwich with Canada's favorite coffee. Terms apply. See app for details.
It's time for Tim's.
I'm Rick Showers from No Bull RV, and the time to think about winterizing your RV is before the snow flies. There's a lot of steps you need to take to winterize your trailer or motorhome.
And you have to get every step right every single time. Right, Rick?
That's right, Bob, because if you make even a little mistake, you might not realize it till spring. By then, it's too late to fix what you got wrong.
Hey, Rick, do you winterize your own trailer?
Not anymore, Bob. I hired people who are smarter than me. Genius technicians who check every component. Dozens of systems to be maintained and protected. And today, we offer that service to you, starting at $99. Every winterization package comes with a full report in writing, so you know what to expect come spring. If you're confident to do it yourself, have at it. If you're like me and you'd rather have this done by somebody who knows what they're doing, then come to No Bull, and we'll take care of you.
And that's No Bull.
NoBullRV.ca.
You got a go-to coffee spot, a trusted barber, even a lucky game day jersey. But when it's about looking your absolute best, there's only one name you need. Mr. Dirk. Family run since 1939, we're experts in crafting impeccable tailor-made suits and offering a wide variety of everyday styles. Pair that with personalized one-on-one fittings and the convenience of on-site tailoring. Mr. Dirk elevates your style game. Visit our Edmonton store or explore MrDirk.com. Score big on style with Mr. Dirk.
Are you ready for full throttle fun? Because the 2024 Alberta Snowmobile, ATV, and Off-Road Show is back, baby. With over 100,000 square feet of displays and great prizes to be won. See the 2025 lineup of sleds, ATVs, and side-by-sides. Loads of fun and entertainment for all ages. Check out albertasnowmobileshow.ca for more information. The Alberta Snowmobile, ATV, and Off-Road Show, presented by GMC. October 18th and 19th at the Expo Center. Kids are free. Tickets at the door.
Just after 4 o'clock, Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube and Facebook. Once again, big shout out to Kurt Hill for joining us in studio. Lots of good insight from Kurt, and that's a great rise from where he's gone, right? From playing to getting into the league, and boom, 1 year as a scout in Chicago, and then credit the Oilers organization way back then. Hey, they made some bad errors, but that was a really good hire. Frustrating, David Whitetail. Well, here's the thing: what I don't understand, because when you want to publicly come out and say we're going with the quarterback who's more consistent, well, what has been the areas of Trey Ford other than one game? Because look at his play in Hamilton. Like, look at the 3 games he played before the Winnipeg game. That's all I can go by are those 3 games this season, and I don't see a lot of inconsistencies from Trey Ford in those games, right? Like, what was he doing? So, because here's the numbers. Let's go through it. Against Hamilton, he was 10 of 15 for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. And oh, by the way, Bethel Thompson had 70 yards passing in the first half of that game against Hamilton. So there's one first half where Bethel Thompson was junk. Then you go against Calgary. They had no points in the first quarter. Sorry, 2 single punts in the first quarter. The first 7 series, they did nothing. But he's being more consistent? Based on what? Then you go to the Saskatchewan game. 18 of 22. He completed 18 of 22 passes, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns. And they ran the ball like crazy. You're completing 18 of 22. How much more consistent can you be? Then the next game against BC, 6 for 6, 96 yards, gets injured. Then he comes in and he plays and that was week 10, August 11th. Then his next game is September 21st, 6 weeks later. Maybe a little bit of rust. I don't know. He's 10 for 17, 131 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. One of the interceptions we all know wasn't his fault. It's right in his receiver's hands. Receiver misses it, deflects it up, they intercept it. So 1 interception that was a bad pick and the fumble, no question. So a game where he wasn't great. Okay, I totally agree with that. But who then just neuters their young quarterback because he had 1 bad game? I keep hearing how he's so inconsistent. Well, he wasn't inconsistent against Hamilton, Saskatchewan, and BC. And he had 1 game. And that's inconsistent? And then when I ask, well, what elements of his game? Well, we're not going to go into it. We're just going with the quarterback. That is such a hollow answer that shows you either A, don't have anything, or B, it's something personal that isn't based on statistics. Because what is it? He hasn't thrown a ton of picks. He had thrown 5 touchdowns and 1 interception in his first 3 games. And then he had 1 game where he had the 2 picks. So that's our definition of inconsistent now? Honestly. And I see some Elks fans parroting it. Oh, yeah, he's being inconsistent. Based on what? What are you talking about he's being inconsistent? He was 34 completions on his first 43 pass attempts. 43 for 5 touchdowns. 400 plus yards. What? What are you talking about, inconsistent? They couldn't run the ball to save their life. They put Trey Ford in and they ran the ball because defenses were like, geez, now we got to defend on the off chance that he's going to run on the outside. So it opens it up. Now they became more committed to the run too. No question. That helps. Helps every quarterback. But I don't see where this inconsistency is. And then I ask the question and he doesn't want to give me an answer. So just leaves us to speculate. I don't get it. Hey guys, I hope G-Roy isn't here. Not a lot of confidence in the answers he gave. I'm searching for reasons to give my wife why I should renew my seats next year and spend more money on a loser. And I can tell you, if Simon's in charge, it's going to be a hard sell. That one comes from JC. Guys, I'm fuming. That was one of the worst interviews I've ever heard. From Mark. Guys, a lot of tap dancing by G-Roy in your interview. Jeez, from Patty in Spruce Grove. Boys, some junk responses from Elks management. It's proven in all areas that he gives them a better chance to win. The whole consistency thing is junk. MBT is being consistently not as effective and doesn't win them games. If I'm representing Trey Ford, no chance I'm re-signing. Has to be something else happening, Dustin. Well, it does beg the question. Right? It begs the question, what is it that's so terrible about a quarterback who completes passes, doesn't throw interceptions, and throws touchdowns? Except for one game. And really, it was 3/4 of a game against the league's best defense. Like, I would use that as a, hey, guess what? Some days, the other team's going to be better. And we need to see how you react. So, I don't know. Did they want to call a different play and he audibled out of a few plays? Like, is that the worst thing he could have done? Like, what else could he have done? Did he come off the sideline screaming at someone? There's no video footage of it. And trust me, there's cameras everywhere now. You can't get away with anything. So what is it? It's just to say, well, we're going with a more consistent quarterback. Consistent on what? Here's my question. Can Bethel Thompson complete a pass downfield? Past 20 yards? Yes or no? He consistently can't. Can he scramble? No. So where is he more consistent? The other thing it's mind-blowing to me. I don't get it. Am I taking crazy pills right now? Am I missing something, Connor Halley?
No, I got nothing. I mean, I'm totally with you here on this one. I said it going back to the game, the second part of the home and home with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Like, I thought that was a really good opportunity to give your young quarterback a chance to go into the film room, watch, and try to correct those mistakes and go from there and see what you have. Because McLeod Bethel Thompson, like, is he coming back next year? Maybe. He's not your long-term future. Trey Ford has the opportunity to be that guy. And I know G-Roy said there's more to it than just, being on the film, taking reps in practice, which I totally agree with. But I do think the best way to learn those mistakes is during the game and go through them and see the looks you're going to face from a good defense like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and then go from there. And then at least give him and his camp that sign that you want him. You're the guy. We're going to re-sign you. You're our quarterback of the future, and let's make it happen. I maybe conversations are going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but from an outsider and us just kind of speculating, I would totally understand if he said, I'm out. I'm done with this team, because what signs have they given me that they want me back here in the future? And he'll have a market in free agency. There will be teams that will give him a look. Obviously, we think that Vernon Adams could potentially be someone who's on the move as well. If the BC Lions are going to stick with Nathan Rourke, but Trey Ford will have options. So yeah, it blows my mind. I've tried to figure out a reason for this. The slight playoff hopes to me aren't enough. Trey Ford, when he's out there, he makes plays. He gives you the opportunity to win. And, just by having him out there, he helps other aspects of your game because he is that threat to run, and he can help out there too. So I don't get it. We'll wait and see what happens. Maybe the Elks go on a heck of a run and we'll lead our words. But from what we saw last week, I'm not too optimistic that that's going to happen.
No, come on. It's not happening. 833-401-1440, 833-401-1440. It's the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. The Oilers are in Seattle. We're going to go to Seattle next. Both teams pretty much with full rosters tonight. The Oilers, the guys who won't play, because it's easier to say who won't play, Perry and Podkolzin. Raphael Lavoie hasn't skated for the last few days, so those are the three forwards who will not dress. Emberson and Stetcher on the blue line. And Calvin Pickard's not dressed, but he did skate this morning and said he's good to go and is hopeful that maybe he can play on Friday's game against the Vancouver Canucks. So we'll see. So Stuart Skinner last year in the preseason played basically 2.5 games. After tonight, it'd be a 2.5. So do they split the last game? Does he? Obviously Stuart Skinner's the priority, no question. He's your starter. He plays tonight. They don't have another game until next Wednesday. So does he want to play a little bit on Friday? We'll see. Well, we'll find out then. But, Pod Colson's already played 4 preseason games. You know what? They play him against his former team. That'll be 5 on Friday. I don't think there's a big need for him to play tonight. So Drake Caggiula will play. Caggiula's had a really good camp. Obviously, I think we all know he's not going to be here when they break camp. But you know what? He's performed well. Then there's Raphael Lavoie, who is in tough because now he's nicked up. And more so in tough because Noah Phillips played really well. And Noah Phillips is center iceman. And I still believe the Oilers are going to keep 13 healthy forwards rather than just 12. And I know that means they only then accrue like 200 and some in cap space rather than 900. So I understand the math. But I think it's kind of wishful thinking to think that they would accrue the cap space with 12 for an extended period of time. Guy could get hurt in the first game, and that's out the window, right? So Noah Phillips played really well. Now, he is going to see NHL roster tonight. And then against Vancouver, they're going to load up their final roster. Guys like JT Miller is going to play his first game. Quinn Hughes will play his second game. So you'll see a lot of the Canucks final roster on Friday night as well. So there'll be a better test here for Noah Phillips tonight for sure in Seattle, and maybe gets another go at on Friday. We'll see. But he's played really well. And there's lots to be intrigued by from him. So he's the guy for me that I'll be watching closely tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. On the back end, Darnell Nurse will make his first appearance of the preseason. He's going to be paired up, I think, with Dermott. Only because Ekholm and Bouchard will play together. And then there's Kulak and Brown. So Kulak and Brown have played together. Like, I know something, and we got texts wondering, like, why do you think Emerson's not playing? I honestly, I don't know the answer. I'm going to guess it's because of the amount of games they want guys to play. And then 2, I think this means Nurse is going to play Friday. I think if Nurse was only playing one game, then him and Emerson would have played together tonight. That's an educated guess on my part. I don't know 100%. I'll be honest about that. But I think it's an educated guess that he is going to play again on Friday. And so him and Emerson will play there. Now, they might start the regular season having not played. Like, remember last year, Ekholm and Bouchard? Ekholm got injured, right? So they didn't play together. It's not ideal, but you can do it, right? It's not like Emerson plays, that loose of a game, right? Neither one of him or Nurse are going to be jumping up in the rush a boatload. Obviously, it's today's NHL. You have your defenseman join the rush for sure. And Nurse is a transporter of the puck, whether he plays with Ceci, whether he plays with Desharnais, whether he plays with Emerson. I think he's going to have that element of his game always there. I think for Nurse, the big thing is going to be just understanding to try to play within himself. Play like he did when Coffey first got hired. Those first 33 games before the All-Star break, Darnell Nurse was excellent. He was excellent. Go back and look at all the numbers. Excellent 5-on-5, really good on the penalty kill. In 93 minutes, in those first 33 games with Coffey and Stewart running the penalty kill, Nurse was on the ice for 93 minutes, which was 20 more than any other defenseman like Ekholm. Now, Ceci was closer because they played a lot together. And he was only on for 7 goals against. They had an 89.5% penalty kill. And Nurse was the highest used penalty killer. He was very good. Then they went to the All-Star break, and I don't know what happened. They come back from the All-Star game. There's 36 games left in the season. In those 36 games, now remember, 7 goals against on the penalty kill in 93 minutes. After the All-Star break, Nurse comes back, and he's on the ice for 20 goals against. 22, in fact, in 75 minutes. So you go from 7 in 93 minutes to 22 in 75 minutes. He struggled. Now, it's not just one guy, but when you're on the ice for that much more than anybody else, it's a concern. And 5-on-5, he went from being a +8 player to being a -6 player. It's a pretty big discrepancy. And it wasn't like they scored way more goals. He was on the ice for way more against. And this was not like the first 13 games and everybody's getting scored on. I'm talking down the stretch where the rest of the team was doing pretty well. Nurse struggled down the stretch. Was inconsistent in the playoffs. Nurse has to eliminate that part from his game. He doesn't have to be dominant. He just can't have that low of a valley at this stage of his career. And I don't think that's That's just unacceptable for me. He's not a rookie. He's not a sophomore. He is now an established NHL veteran, 8-9 years in the league. He's got to find the consistency because you know what he's capable of. We've seen it. So, and I'm not even, he doesn't have to be the top end of it. Just don't be at the bottom like we saw in the last 36 games and in the playoffs from Nurse. For the most part, he had a few good games, yes. But that's, to me, the whole full. I don't really care who his defense partners because I don't think it had to do with playing with Ceci or Broberg or Desharnais. It didn't matter who it was. Nurse's game, he controls the majority of it, and he's responsible for his play. And if Darnell Nurse finds consistency in his game, it makes such a big difference for the whole team. There's no question in my mind about that at all. 422. Hey, Gregor, can you explain how cap space is accrued? I don't quite get it. They have to wait until the season starts, put Kane on LTIR from Leroy Brown. Well, they're not going to put Kane on LTIR because LTIR doesn't help them. Because if they put Kane on LTIR right now, like they're under the salary cap with Kane on, right? You want to get right to the level that then you put it in and then you can maximize all of his LTIR. But you can only maximize it by going out and getting players. But if they think that Kane's going to come back during the season, well, then you'd have to get rid of $5 million off your salary to bring him back on. So you try to avoid that if you can. Number two, how you accrue cap space is basically I'll just go off the number 185. So let's say there's 185 days in the regular season. It might be different this year. Sometimes 186, sometimes 187, all depends. And so every day, so if you're a player who makes $1 million, you divide $1 million by 187. And that's what your salary is per day for a player. So if you have the cap space and you've got this run $1 million below, so then you're getting a small percentage of that accrues because you haven't used your full 88 million in cap space, right? You don't gain $1 million a day, of course, you're a small percentage of it. And then that builds up over time. And really $1 million in cap space today, by the time you accrue it, if you never go in, dip into it, which is a big if and highly unlikely, by the trade deadline, it would be worth around $4 million in cap space because you haven't used it. So you build it up and you get 88 million divided over the 185 days, right? So each day is worth that. So if you don't spend it, you kind of get to save it. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, we haven't spent it for 20 days. Well, we just accrued $50 a day. Well, now we got an extra 1,000. That's probably the easiest way to look at it. And that's what happens. But keep in mind, that's only if you're not in LTIR and if you maintain that same level of cap space. The orders, it's why I know everybody's been talking about it because it's on Puckpedia and they only have the orders at 13 forwards. And oh, look, they have $945K in cap space. That's going to turn into $4 million. That's unreal. Yes. In the utopian perfect world, yes. But thinking that no guy's ever going to get nicked up enough where he's out for a week or 3 days or whatever, not long enough to go in LTIR, well, then he's still on the roster. Now you got to bring somebody else up. So I think the orders, they'll go with the 200 cap space. They'll bring in the guys like Luke Philp and others who are on league minimum because they can play, and they'll go from there. We'll come back. We'll go out to Seattle, the Kraken. Matt Beniers, Shane Wright, Montour, some guys hoping for rebounds, guys ready to break out, and some free agent signings. Can it push them back to the playoffs? We'll find out next on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
At Fountain Tire, we love jingles. Get up to 25% off select tires.
Until October 19th.
Plus a bonus $50 off any service of $150.
Restrictions apply.
Book online today. Fountain Tire. We're on this road together.
Hockey is back, and Play Alberta, Alberta's #1 sportsbook and official partner of the Edmonton Oilers, has you covered with bigger offers, boosted odds, live betting, player props, and more. New to Play Alberta, new players now receive $200 in free bets just for signing up. You already play? Get a $10 free bet for every $100 you bet. Every week, all season long. Visit playalberta.ca and make your picks today. Bonus terms and conditions apply.
Ain't it beautiful?
The inventory is unprecedented. Volvo Cars Edmonton is proud to boast an amazing selection of in-stock Volvo XC40s, 60s, and 90s. Visit Volvo Cars Edmonton today and experience the exemplary service you've come to expect and the affordable luxury only found with Volvo Cars Edmonton, Canada's only 12-time Volvo Excellence Award winners. Experience the difference.
Volvo of Edmonton.
New Jizz Nuggets. This is New Jizz Nuggets, brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling. What nugget of heating and cooling advice does Nuge have today?
You can save a lot of money by bundling your new furnace and AC with Legacy. It's kind of like saving money on an endorsement by bundling me, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, with someone like, I don't know, Zachary Martin Hyman.
Thanks for suggesting me, Nuge.
Get no payments and no interest for 1 year on your new AC and furnace from Legacy Heating and Cooling. Proud sponsor of New Jizz Nuggets.
.427 Detroit. Woo-hoo. The Motor City will be rocking as the Tigers continue. Hey, you get hot going into the playoffs. Oh, they got rid of the cheaters. Now, I know they might not have cheated this year, but I'm sorry. At least for a decade, when I think of Houston, I think of cheaters. Until every player from that cheating team is no longer with the organization, they're cheaters. It's just how I look at it. Sorry. That's what they did. And so Detroit goes into Houston, wins both games. And they are now moving on to the next round. Currently, KC taking on Baltimore. Baltimore needs a win to stretch it to 3 games tomorrow. The Mets are in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's in a must-win situation, as are the Atlanta Braves. So we'll see any of those series go the distance. If not, they'll get a few days off because the next round starts automatically on Saturday. The NHL will start officially this Friday in Europe, New Jersey and Buffalo, Friday, Saturday. But then the North American edition of the NHL regular season starts next Tuesday. The Kraken. I looked at the schedule. They got an afternoon game on a Tuesday. We'll get into that and more as we get to Around the NHL, brought to you by McDonald's. And it's back, baby. Oh, the excitement, the joy of the victory. Monopoly is back for the month of October. Only at McDonald's. Good luck. As we welcome in Everett Fitzhugh, the voice of the Kraken. Everett, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
Oh, Gregor, I'm doing well. 2 things. Number one, with that little intro of yours about Houston, you just made everybody in Seattle very, very happy. They don't like the Astros here. Number 2, I'm from Detroit, and I just spent the last 2.5 hours watching that game. So I am probably the happiest person in Seattle right now. I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, buddy, that was good. That was quite a game too, man. It was,
yeah.
Houston steals home, and you're thinking they got all the momentum, and the Tigers, just like they've done for the last few months, it doesn't affect them. They come right back and a huge top of the next inning. So good for them, man. I love playoffs in any sport, but baseball playoffs are great. Before we get to tonight's matchup, is it just because it's opening like a Tuesday afternoon in Seattle? Is this like hockey hooky to start the season? What's going on?
Yeah, we're playing hooky for hockey coming up on Tuesday. But a large part of the reason is ESPN down here in the States. They're taking a page out of their MLB opening day playbook, and they are having triple header that day. So it's going to be us in St. Louis to start. Then you've got Boston, and I forget who they play, and then the inaugural game in Salt Lake City between them and I think it's Chicago. So it's going to be ESPN triple header, and we're going to be the first domestic show in town as the league gets off internationally Thursday, Friday, something like that. But yeah, we're the first domestic show in town.
Well, there you go. I like it. I look at Seattle. Tonight's roster is pretty much their NHL roster. Now, I know Ty Carte's out for maintenance day, so that might be the one change. But, this is what you see is what you're going to get. I want to start in goal. Joey Daccord had unbelievable numbers last year for Seattle. What's the goalie competition like? Is there, is Grubauer still number one, or is Joey Daccord, has he earned the number one in your eyes?
In a perfect world, Gregor, I think there really is no number one, number two. I think there's a 1A, 1B, but you're right. I mean, Joey Daccord, last season, the work that he did, the coming out party at the Winter Classic, and then he, with Grubauer on the shelf, he kept Seattle in that playoff conversation. Now, they were 5, 6, 7 points out, but at least you were playing meaningful games, just about around the deadline, maybe a little bit after the deadline. I think that one game after the deadline in Winnipeg, the Kraken won that game, and I think they were 5 points out at the time. So you're 5 points back, 20 games to go. You were talking about the Tigers back on August 11th. They had a 0.2% chance of making the playoffs, and then they go 33-11 over their last 44 games. Well, the Kraken, you never know, right? You're only a handful of points out. So, but Joey Daccord kept them in that conversation up until then. So I think he played 50 games last year. He now knows what he needs to do to carry a full NHL workload. Both of them have been preparing as if they're going to be the number one goaltender. Grubauer going to get the full game tonight, so that will be his last opportunity to show that he earns the start on Tuesday. Did not look his best in Edmonton back on Saturday, but then 2 days ago on Monday in Calgary, Joey Daccord didn't look his strongest either. So I think that number one spot is up for grabs. But ultimately, if you're Seattle, you just want two healthy goalies, because the last 3 years, Philip Grubauer has been on the shelf for 4, 5, 6+ weeks at some point during the season.
I look at Seattle, and 2 years ago when they made the playoffs, it was a complete team effort. Every forward on the team had 13 goals. Their fourth line was unreal at 5-on-5, and it was a high shooting percentage. Most people said it wasn't going to happen again, and it didn't. Especially when they got rid of the whole fourth line, guys cashing in free agency. So I understand it. I look at their lineup there. Matty Beniers had a sophomore slump. It happens to a lot of guys. Obviously, they still believe in him heavily. Got the big long-term contract for them. I look at Beniers. I also look at Shane Wright, who I've liked. I'm not a big believer in teenagers in the NHL, except for the odd outlier like McDavid, etc. But most guys aren't great as teenagers. Where do you see Shane Wright at? And he's penciled in kind of, it looks like, as their number 3 center to start behind Beniers and Stephenson, which I think is a good spot for him even. But what kind of steps are they looking like? Is a 40-point season? Is he going to get some second unit power play time?
I think he will. He also killed some penalties late last year for Seattle. And Dan Bilesma in Coachella used him on the power play as well as on the PK. Now, I mean, I think the Kraken PK is pretty set there, but you do at least have that option with him. I think the main goal, and you're going to look at me and roll your eyes and say, well, no, duh, but the main goal for Shane Wright is going to be able to play at an 82-game level, NHL level, all season. They sent him down to the AHL last year to work on very specific things. His play with the puck, his play without the puck, getting to the net, playing with more confidence, putting him into different situations. Everything they sent him down to work on, he passed every test. There was a checklist that they essentially gave him, and he checked every single box. So I think for him, it's having the success that he had last year, but doing it over an 82-game NHL schedule. Now, I think he's going to be helped out with the addition of Chandler Stevenson, because now, back last season, Matty Beniers was your number one center. He got all the strong assignments. Without Chandler Stevenson, Shane Wright was probably going to be your number two this year. If he didn't sign, you were going to be looking at maybe Yanni Gord number two, Wright number three, or vice versa. But now you bring in Chandler Stevenson and you take even more pressure off of a guy like Shane Wright. He's got two really good wingers on either side of him. But even Dan Bilesma has said that the lineups that we see tonight might not necessarily be the lineup that we see on Tuesday afternoon against St. Louis. So we'll have to wait and see there. But I think for Shane Wright, he's got all the confidence in the world. He loves playing for Dan Bilesma. Dan Bilesma loves coaching him and has coached him over the better part of the last two seasons. And he is going to be put in every possible positive situation to succeed. He came into rookie camp this season. I don't think he had to attend with the Coachella going as far as they did. I'm pretty sure he was given the option to come to rookie camp or not. And he chose to come to rookie camp because he wants to be a leader. He wants to show that he's ready to take that next step in his maturation as a full-time NHLer. So time will tell, but I think he's going to have a really solid, strong year this season and put to bed some of those doubts that people still have about the former number 4 overall pick.
A guy like Jaden Schwartz, 40 points 2 years ago, 21 goals. Last year down to 13 goals, 30 points. He's a little bit older of a player, but he's only 32.
Yeah.
Need a little bit of a bounce back from him. I know he had some nagging injuries, and when guys aren't healthy, that definitely impacts it. How much was that a factor, and how much of a factor do you think he will be this season for the Kraken?
I think that's exactly it, Jason. I mean, he had just some nagging little things. You kind of wish it was a big thing so you can treat it and then move on. But it seemed like, there was a little bit here, little bit there, little bit here. And he never really seemed to be 100% healthy. But what I was very encouraged by with Jaden Schwartz is at the end of the season, he started to get back to that grinding, gritty, power forward game that he plays so well. He was going to the front of the net. He missed about 10 games due to injury, and then he came back, and then he went that first game, he was going to the net. He was getting tips. He was muscling people off the puck in the corners. A lot of those things that I think were missing in the early part of last season, he was doing that in the final 15 or so games of the regular season. This year in training camp and even in his first couple of preseason games, he's got that same pop, that same pep in his step. So I think for him, he's ready for a bounce back year with Chandler Stevenson, who he's really good friends with off the ice. I think he and him have had a really good opportunity the last month to connect and maybe relight a bit of a fire inside of Jaden Schwartz. Not that you need much to get him going. But he is going to be counted on this season to be a leader for this team. I mean, listen, 2 years ago, you mentioned it, he had 20 goals in that year. Jaden Schwartz was one of 13 players with career highs in goals, assists, or points. It's going to be offense by committee this season, and it figures to be a big piece of that. And again, you can tell that he's right at that level he was late last season, getting back to that hard-working style of game that he's known for.
Talking Seattle Kraken, where the Oilers will be tonight, their second final preseason game. It's the last preseason game of the year for the Kraken. Everett Fitzhugh, the voice of the Kraken, joins us. They did go out and get Stevenson and Montour. Those are the two big free agent signings, and really not a lot of other changes. Shane Wright, I guess, gets promoted. So, they're looking for some players within to improve. You look at the back end, and Larson and Dunn, they'll play together, Montour and Alexiak. So you kind of got, you got a good puck mover and a big physical guy on those pairs. What about the Borgen, Riker, Evans combination? I like both of those guys. I'm a big fan of Borgen and how he plays a lot. And if Seattle isn't in the mix at the deadline, there'll be a lot of teams after him. But what do you make of that pair, and then maybe playing more minutes than people think?
So Riker Evans, I think in the organization, I feel like some people have given him the term, the title of Vince Dunn Light, right? He's an offensive capable defenseman rather, who can put up points for you. And I think he's expected to put up some points. And now last season, you got his toe wet, 38 games in the NHL. This season, he's going to be a full-time NHL player. He's going to be out there every single day. Him and Will Borgen, I think that's a really good pair because Borgen, coming off of a career high in points, he's found a bit of an edge to his game. Last year, Will Borgen had a career high in games played for the Seattle Kraken. So he has got that confidence of a full-time player. So you put him with Riker Evans. I thought they've looked okay in the preseason. They've not looked great in the preseason, but I do think that the potential is there for them. The production potential is there for them. And you're right, Will Borgen, he's got a really good edge to his game. He's very responsible. He's learned a lot about the position over the past couple of years here in Seattle. And I look at a guy like Adam Larson. Adam Larson has made Vince Dunn a better player defensively, and he's also been working a little bit with Riker Evans, with Will Borgen as well. Last season, Jamie Alexiak played most of his games with Will Borgen. Alexiak a little bit more responsible defensively, so you allowed Will Borgen to play a bit more of an offensive game, which is why you saw him have that career-high 22 assists for him last season. But Will Borgen, you're right. I think there are going to be some teams out there looking at him. I know that Ron Francis really likes him. Dan Bilesma, in the short sample size that he's seen of Borgen, really likes him as well. But defensively, I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue for Seattle, but the wild card is going to be that third pair of Evans and Borgen, especially because Riker Evans, I think, is seen as more of a middle pair defenseman. I don't think he's a third pair guy, so we'll see how long that lasts with Riker Evans on that third pair with Will Borgen.
Lastly, you look at Seattle, and I saw because of their great success in year two. I don't know, it might have hurt them a little bit. I read all these stories about fans are a little upset in Seattle. Like, we got to win right now. It might be. I don't want to hyperbolize things at all here, but is there a little like angst already amongst the fan base? Like, hey, we got to get back to the playoffs.
Yes and no, but I think it comes from a good place. I don't think it's not Philly. It's not Toronto, where the sky is falling, places like that where they hold, the fans really accountable, or the players really accountable in kind of that vitriolic kind of way. But I think here it's more of this is the first time we've had an NHL team in Seattle. You gave us a taste of the playoffs. A lot of us here in Seattle have never experienced playoff hockey. We're a football town. We've seen the Super Bowls. We've seen the Sonics in the finals against Michael Jordan and the Bulls. We've seen the Mariners come so close for so long, but can't really get over the hump. And then you have the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time in Seattle. And now everyone's like, oh, wow, okay, this is amazing. I get it. The fan base here is phenomenal. I grew up in the late 90s in Detroit when the Wings were winning those back-to-back cups. I remember what it was like watching those parades, watching the success that Detroit had. And in that second year for the Kraken, on that late season playoff push and then ultimately into the playoffs, I saw the same fire, the same passion, the same energy from the crowd that I remember growing up with in Detroit. So the fans here love this team. They're really getting on board with the Seattle Kraken. So I think there is a little bit of the angst, but it comes from a good place. It comes from we're hungry. We love this sport. We want more. And the ownership group, Ron Francis, the coaching staff, the players, Brandon Montour, that was one of the big reasons why he came here, is he said he was talking to his wife and he goes, the prospect of bringing another first Stanley Cup to a city was so enticing to him. And that's one of the largest reasons, one of the main reasons why he signed here, on top of the money. But outside of that, that's also why he wanted to play here in Seattle. So the fans, they expect a lot, but this is also a very hard-working, sneaky, passionate fan base. They love their football team. They love their baseball team here. The Huskies play right over the bridge here. The Sounders, the soccer team, is always good. Now fans want to get behind the Kraken. They have gotten behind the Kraken. So I think the players love it. Organization loves it. They love that, hey, we're now a hockey town because fans are holding us accountable, and that I think is a very good thing.
Everett, enjoy the game tonight. The best part about tonight's game, it's the final preseason game for you. It's the best part.
Yes, it is. Like, whose line is it anyway? Everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get back to playing games for real. But one last time to dust off the pipes, and we get at it for real coming up on Tuesday.
Should be good, man. Appreciate it. We'll see you throughout the year.
All right, Gregor. Take care, man. Thanks for the time.
You betcha. That's Everett Fitzhugh, the voice of the Kraken. They have a pretty much an NHL roster tonight. The Oilers, same thing. There's a few guys. Perry, Podkolzin, Emberson, Stetcher, and Pickard aren't playing. Pickard is recovering. Skated today, says he's fine. On the back end, Brown is in. Dermott is in. Of course, Darnell Nurse will play his first preseason game tonight. The Oilers' top three lines are their top three lines. Henrique Brown with Janmark, then Draisaitl with Skinner and Arvidsson, McDavid with Nugent Hopkins and Hyman. The fourth line tonight, we'll see Noah Philp with Derek Ryan and Drake Kajula. Two of those guys in that fourth line won't be in there on opening night because Podkolzin and Perry will be. I don't think it's Drake Kajula. So is it going to be Derek Ryan or Noah Philp? I'm going to say right now, today, before tonight's game, I think Noah Philp is going to be in the Oilers lineup next Wednesday. I think he's played that well, and I expect him to play well again tonight. We'll come back with 5 questions and more. It's the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, sports1440.ca, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Need a truck? Want a great deal on a truck? Get into Wolf GMC Buick. It's GMC's Canada-wide clearance. Take advantage of 0% financing on Sierra half-tons. Oh, and guess what? GMC employee pricing is back on all in-stock 2024 Sierra HDs and Yukons. That means thousands of dollars in savings on GMC Sierra 3/4 ton and 1 ton. Also thousands off the industry-leading SUV, the GMC Yukon. Get to Wolf GMC Buick now and drive away with money off and a smile on. Just off the Anthony Henday.
You've probably heard the term supply and demand. Something is needed and someone supplies it. We're GS Construction, and we're in the supply and demand business with you. Edmonton and the surrounding area continue to grow. Infrastructure has to be continually replaced and upgraded to keep up with demand. You see it with new buildings and new roads, but what about below ground, where all sorts of pipes bring you water and take wastewater away? That's where we come in. For more on what we do, go to gsconstruction.ca.
Some things just work together. Sticks and pucks, cleats and AstroTurf. Your love for the game and Papa John's passion for better ingredients, better pizza. Nothing pairs with the game like Papa John's. Crafted with signature sauce, toppings, and original fresh dough. They're the champion of pizza. And now you're the champion of winning deals. Just order at papajohns.ca. Use promo code SPORTS20 and score 20% off any regular menu price order. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's. That's SPORTS20.
This week at the Brick, when you buy more, you save more. Shop amazing savings throughout the store, like up to 30% off furniture, up to 40% off mattresses, and up to $500 off select major kitchen appliances. Plus, when you buy more, we give more. A portion of our sales will be donated to your local Children's Hospital Foundation, helping to transform children's lives with every purchase you make. Some exclusions apply. See in store or online at thebrick.com for details. The Brick, saving you more.
Carve out for a cause at the 6th annual Jason Gregor Pizza Takeout presented by Swift. Thursday, October 24th at the Canadian Ice House. Indulge in unlimited pizza while raising some dough for Kids Sport. Vote for your favorite slice to crown the People's Choice Awards winners. Don't miss Edmonton's biggest pizza party with Gregor broadcasting live. Tickets are $60 or $200 for a group of 4. Adults only. Buy your tickets today. For more details, see jasongregorpizzapigout.com.
This is Kevin Carries from Sports 1440. Join me at Century Sports Bar and Lounge for a big watch party. We'll be showing the first big game of the season this Friday at 8 p.m. That's the Sports Bar at Century Casino, Fort Road, Edmonton. We will see you there.
Well, most of us want is to end the preseason. It's getting closer. Oilers' second final preseason game tonight against Seattle, Friday in Vancouver, and then the 2 points matter starting next Wednesday against the Winnipeg Jets. Welcome back to the Gregor Show alongside Connor Halley. Hope you're having yourself a wonderful day. It's a good time to be a sports fan, baby. Baseball playoffs ongoing. The Detroit Tigers are into the second round. Good for them. You have KC and Baltimore. Baltimore in a must-win situation right now. See what happens. Let's get to 5 questions brought to you by The Brick. Get ready for hockey season this week at The Brick, where you can save up to $800 off big screen TVs. Catch every goal, hit, and highlight from the comfort of your own home at The Brick and thebrick.com.
It's time for 5 questions on the Jason Gregor Show.
All right, Jason, question number 1 for you today is Glenn Anderson's birthday. So in honor of him, who is the greatest number 9 in sports history, in your opinion?
Wow.
Take away Gordie Howe?
Yeah, because he's the obvious one. Like, if I'm not going Gordie Howe, I'd probably go Ronaldo.
All right. I think there's some pretty good ones out there, but I'll go biased. Although he didn't have much success with the Chargers. Drew Brees with the New Orleans Saints was tearing up defenses for a long time. So I'll take number 9. Drew Brees is my top one outside of Gordie Howe. Question number 2. Right now, of course, the Elks have the interim tag on Coach Jackson and General Manager Geroy Simon. Do you think both, one, or neither are back next year?
That's a good question. It's hard to answer because I don't know who the president is. And because if the president comes in, and does the owner give him and just say, man, you got carte blanche to do everything? Or is the owner like, hey, I want, I want some continuity. I'd have to look at the contract status. I think both of their guys' contracts are done. So that kind of gives you carte blanche. So I would, well, if the GM comes back, I would think the coach comes back. So I'm going to say none.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think there might be other coaches out there that have more success and have developed quarterbacks in the past that you might want to go look out to if you're keeping Trey Ford and if the ownership and president wants to do so. So I'm with you. Tough business.
And especially, let's say they lose again on Saturday. Right or wrong, now the owner's kind of like, well, what direction are we going here? Man, we had won. Everything was high, and then boom, loss. Because by then, now you're out of the playoffs. The final 2 games, and then guess what? If then they come back in the final 2 games of the regular season, and you play Trey Ford against Toronto and Calgary, and Trey Ford plays like he did in his first 3 games, the owner's kind of like, hey, wait a sec. You guys had this guy here. He had one tough game, and you abandoned him? Why? So, yeah, a lot of it will depend on what happens here.
Question number 3. If the Las Vegas Raiders do decide to make the move and trade wide receiver Devontae Adams, where do you think would be the best landing spot?
Well, the best landing spot for him would be KC. If I'm him, that's where I want to go. I'm going to go to a team that's going to win. It's got a great quarterback who needs a receiver. But do I think the most realistic landing spot is probably going to be the Jets or Pittsburgh?
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Jets. I didn't get him back with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if the Jets would do it, but like Garrett Wilson, 1-for-1, maybe.
Ooh, why would you do that if you're
because you're in win now mode. Garrett Wilson has way more, of a bright future ahead of him. But you get Aaron Rodgers, that guy. I don't know. I think that if I'm the Raiders, that's what I want. I need someone that can fill those shoes immediately, and that would be a good trade for the Raiders as well. I don't know if it would happen, but I'm going to say the Jets. I've heard the Saints for Devontae because he's Derek Carr in that connection as well, but I think the Jets will be a fun one to see. Question number 4 for you. What do you make of the Jays returning the same management group and coaching staff for the most part as last year?
No. Their assistant pitching coach is gone.
For the most part, it's the same.
No, I'm kidding.
A little shuffling of the deck chairs.
I am the thing that's it's always frustrating to me when a pro sports organization thinks its fan base and media people don't pay attention to anything. And he's like, when they ask, so how much of this struggle is on well, injuries. all it takes is like a 2-second search to realize the Jays didn't have that bad of injuries. 24th ranked injuries that were impactful to their team. 24. This is a top 10 team in spending, a bottom 7 team in the standings. And you're going to try to use injuries when it takes 30 seconds to research that it's not injuries is the problem. So I think it's such an arrogance like that. And why not just take ownership and say, you know what? We made some bad moves and we got to be better. Most people be like, okay, well, I can't complain. He admits he made some bad moves. Okay, let's see what he's got. It's that simple. And they don't do it. So I'll be very curious because now they're in a market. It's a huge market, right? Very passionate fan base. And like most fans, they want to see their team win. They've got some talented players there. There's no question. But I'm sorry. If you want to blame the hitting coach for all the woes of your team or your assistant pitching coach, I think you got bigger problems in the organization. Is there any accountability at the top? Today didn't show that there was.
Final question for you today. On this day in 1957, The Bridge on the River Kwai debuted, a movie I've been told by my dad many times to watch. It would go on to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. I believe it won 7 out of 8 that it was nominated for 4 British Academy Awards. When it comes to movies from the 1950s, do you have a favorite?
Well, I'm more curious if you do. So I'll give you my answer, but I want to hear what yours is first.
Well, that is part of the problem. I haven't seen too many. As I go through these movies, there's ones I do want to see. 12 Angry Men, North by Northwest, kind of top the list. But I have seen Lady and the Tramp. And that was made in 1955. So
okay,
almost by default, Lady and the Tramp.
Ooh, it's actually not a bad one. I'm going to go with the movie that I'd watched, The Killing, which had to do with a racetrack robbery way back when. My dad had watched that with him. So I'm trying to think of any other movies from the 50s. Like, I know there's some in the 60s, but they might be a 50s movie. Like, I think, but you got to look it up. Ben-Hur, I think, is a 50s movie. Cons? I should have looked this up before I gave my
59,
answer.
yeah, it gets in there.
So there, it's right on the cusp. But yeah, I'm still going to go with Killing as number 1.
There's actually a lot I do want to see. Rebel Without a Cause, Ben-Hur, like you said. Streetcar Named Desire. That's kind of a classic too, right? So,
the other one is a Western that I watched, Shane. Yeah, my dad we watched tons of Westerns, so I'm 90% sure Shane's a 50s movie.
How about Old Yeller?
That's a 50s movie?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be my number 1 then.
1957.
Oh, God, that was the 60s for sure.
Hour and 24 minutes. The way movies should be.
Buddy, Old Yeller is such a good movie. Like, can it be a spoiler alert from a movie from the 1950s?
No.
Like, come on.
Yeah, everyone knows.
But come on, man. Old Yeller, I can't wait. Like, I think my son's, I got to look at it. I think my son's probably old enough now to watch that movie. But, you've had a dog. And especially, like, I grew up on a farm. You know what? Farm dog's a little bit different. No offense. I have a house dog now in the city. It's great, but it's different than a farm dog. It just is. And that connection to the farm dog, that movie, man, I remember watching it the first time. I don't think I question if you have tear ducts if you didn't cry at that movie. I question it. You watch Old Yeller?
Yeah, I don't think I've really cried at a movie.
What?
I mean, I think we've discussed this.
You've never cried at any movie?
Like happy movies, maybe happy tears. But the thing that gets me is like when you show me Make-A-Wish videos and they let these kids live their dreams, I'll tear up 100%. But movies never have really
You've
been.
You've never
doing
cried like at a sports movie? What? Have you seen Brian's song?
Yeah, I have.
And you didn't cry at that?
Made for TV movie? No, well, no, I didn't. Movies don't do it to me.
Wow.
I don't know. I guess I can separate them. Now,
even if it's a true story.
If it was like a documentary on those two,
but how's a documentary that much different?
I don't know. When it's real humans, when they're not actors, it's different for me.
Tyler says, watch the Peanut Butter Falcon. I guarantee you shed a tear.
Oh, that's with
a good one.
What's his name? Yeah. Heard good things.
Oof. Hey guys, my mom used to say, if you don't cry at Old Yeller, you aren't human. Well, I've questioned Connor's human side a bit. Now it's Jeez.
A little bit of a robot over here.
Oh, God.
I'm not like, I don't want people to think this guy has no emotion. Like, I'll tell you.
Well, we're questioning.
There's one of my favorites, if I'm ever in the mood for it. There's a young kid, and he gets to go to Seattle Seahawks camp. But he won't go without his dad, who's stationed in the Middle East. He's part of the army. They surprise him by bringing his dad home, and then they take him to Seahawks camp. He's with Russell Wilson, Richard Sherman. Like, that'll get me every time. I can be very emotional, but when it's a movie, for whatever reason, it hits me a little different.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe that changes in a month, Gregor.
Oh, dude. Oh, yeah.
Maybe I get soft all of a sudden.
Fatherhood comes. Yeah. Possibly. Yeah. Well, it does change you. There's any dad listening will attest that I can't even explain how or why, but it changes you. It's you become responsible for someone else, and you just feel different. I don't even know how someone else probably can explain it better to me. I can still remember the exact moment holding my son for the first time in the hospital, and it was just like this overwhelming emotion. Like, I remember calling him. Now, of course, my dad wasn't there. It was pretty emotional for me, but I could barely talk to my mother because we didn't know if we were having a boy or girl. And not that it mattered. I didn't care. I just wanted a healthy baby. And, but once, it's a boy, and now we had names picked out and everything. It was, it was emotional for sure. So I don't know, some dad out there maybe can describe that feeling better, but I think everybody out there knows what I'm talking about. If you become a father, and if you've yet to be a father and you plan on being one day, when it happens, just be prepared. It's a great feeling. Don't get me wrong, but it hits you. Let's get to Connor Halley and Sports 1440 update, brought to you by GS Construction. Hey, they're hiring right now. Laborers, pipe layers, pipe layer helpers, top women and men, lead hands, and more. Go to Indeed.com and look up GS Construction.
This is the Sports 1440 update.
Game day, the Edmonton Oilers down in Seattle as the preseason rolls on. Puck drop just after 8 o'clock. You also got the Ducks hosting Utah, the Flames in Winnipeg, Lightning take on the Panthers, and the Preds in Carolina. The Boston Bruins have claimed goaltender Yuri Patera off waivers from the Vancouver Canucks. Patera, 25 years old, signed a 2-year, $1.55 million deal with the Canucks this past offseason, appearing in 6 games last year with Vegas Golden Knights, going 1-3-1. Major League Baseball playoffs, bottom of the 7th. The Royals lead the Orioles 2-1. Kansas City also leads that series 1-0. Earlier today, the Tigers complete the sweep over the Astros with a 5-2 victory. Later tonight, you got the Brewers hosting the Mets. Mets lead that series 1-0, and the Padres look to wrap up their series with the Braves at 6:30. The Cleveland Browns star running back Nick Chubb returned to practice today for the first time since suffering a grotesque season-ending left knee injury more than a year ago. The four-time Pro Bowler not likely to play on Sunday when the team takes on the Commanders, but should be ready to go at some point this month. Coming up in hour number 4 of the Jason Gregor Show, of course, we will be joined by Mark Spector as we get you ready for tonight's Oilers and Kraken game. We'll also hear from Ian Hunter, talk little Toronto Blue Jays. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin. CKJR is a Stingray radio station.
Download the free radio player app and listen wherever you go.
Oodle Noodle Origins.
In 1864, Francis Oodle took over his dying father's business as a leatherman. He was quite proficient, but his heart was never truly in the trade. After his father's death, Oodle met a cocksure young man named Vladimir Nudell, who was a trailblazer in the popular new art of food boxes.
At
They
Fountain
formed a
Tire.
partnership and aimed to ply their trade in the new world. At Ellis Island, Nudell was renamed David Noodle, and henceforth, the franchise has been known as
Oodle Noodle.
Hockey is back, and Play Alberta, Alberta's #1 sportsbook and official partner of the Edmonton Oilers, has you covered with bigger offers, boosted odds, live betting, player props, and more. New to Play Alberta, new players now receive $200 in free bets just for signing up. You already play? Get a $10 free bet for every $100 you bet every week all season long. Visit playalberta.ca and make your picks today. Bonus terms and conditions apply.
Find the perfect tractor for any job at Edmonton Kubota. Their massive selection of compact tractors has something for everyone, whether you're tackling small tasks or big projects. And right now, take advantage of 0% financing for up to 72 months. It's never been easier to get the power and reliability you need. Come down to Edmonton Kubota today and drive away with the tractor that's just right for you. Edmonton Kubota, where your perfect tractor awaits.
Introducing the Female Super League. Female hockey is on the rise with more women playing the game than ever. Join us as we pave the way for the future of women's hockey. The FSL is more than a game. It's a movement and an experience for the motivated female athlete. Teams will compete in a showcase-style format featuring consistent interprovincial competition. Come be part of the journey as the 2024-25 season unveils a 12U division, as well as the launch of a groundbreaking progressive body-checking 14U division. For more information, visit FemaleSuperLeague.com.
Often when I meet people at a party or I'm hanging out at my favorite restaurants, I'll introduce myself and they'll say, "Oh, you're Grant Fedoruk from Leading Edge Physio. What can I do about this sore knee? It's been bugging me for months." First, I was thinking, when I'm out like this, I should just tweet my location so people know where to come for a consultation. But then I thought, I'm spending all this money on advertising Leading Edge. Maybe you could come by one of our clinics. That's where we have the technology and really smart physiotherapists who can give you all the advice and treatment you need. Have your people call my people. LeadingEdgePhysio.com.
Just after 5 o'clock, it is game day on Sports 1440, sports1440.ca, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. As always, presented by our title sponsor, PlayAlberta.ca. Get in the game, MLB playoffs. If you had Detroit, you're moving on. Also, NFL tomorrow, big weekend, and then the NHL. Actually, the NHL kicks off regular season on Friday. So, and you can still lay the Oilers' favorite to win the Pacific Division at PlayAlberta.ca. If you're a believer, get in. Oilers are in Seattle tonight. Stuart Skinner will get the start in goal. Darnell Nurse will make his first appearance of the preseason. As it's time for the Spec Report, brought to you by GS Construction, where, hey, they're hiring. Get in at GS Construction. Spec, how you doing?
Oh, doing great. How you doing, man?
Oof. Pretty good, man. Real good.
Watching baseball here. I adopted the Tigers this year, like from the start. Since all my teams, since the Cubs didn't make it and the Blue Jays are done, I figured, you know what? I'm taking the Tigers. They're coming in hot. And oh man, did they mow through the Astros, huh?
Well, the Tigers were a team I'm rooting for, of course. John Short, my mentor, of course, who passed away earlier this year, was a huge Tigers fan. He used to, when I first started working with John, tell me all these stories about the Tigers. And like, I was a big sports guy, but I didn't know half the stuff he was talking about. It was great. And so he'll be sitting there saying, "Are you kidding me? You guys are finally going to go on a run here, and I'm not around to see it. What the hell is that?"
That's awesome. John was a huge Tigers fan for sure.
Yeah, he was huge Tigers fan. So
that's great.
They got back. You know what? Them and KC, kind of some Cinderella stories. The Padres as well. I'd love to see one of them win. But the Yankees and the Dodgers are pretty stacked. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of stacked, Spec, finally, NHL roster is pretty much across the board, barring a few exceptions tonight for the Oilers and Seattle. And you were there. We saw the Oilers' pace at practice yesterday was infinitely higher. I would expect a much crisper game tonight for Edmonton.
Yeah, I think there's an expectation to be very, very ready for game one, and it's going to start likely tonight in Seattle. They're going to have most of their lineup, certainly the forward lines. They're still fiddling around with the defense a little bit here, but I think it's time to, start to find their game and play the way that made them so successful last year. And that's not just offensively. I think it's time for everyone to dig in here and start to play a semblance of an NHL game. You got 2 nights to start to work on it, and my understanding is that expectation is a Wednesday against Winnipeg. It's time to bring that game in game one, not 4, 5, 6 games into the season.
Yeah, no, that's been their message from their captain really from day one, is like, let's be ready. Let's kind of ramp up and be ready to go to start the regular season. And, easier said than done. It doesn't mean just because you talk about it that it's going to happen. Now you got to go out and do it. But McDavid, for him, wants to get into a rhythm. I read your article about, and I love Bowman. He's like, you can't be worried about injuries. Like, I know there's a few guys that are hurt right now, but when I went through it, like Patrick Laine was like, if I look at the top 100 scorers, none of them are hurt. So even then, I like Drew Doughty is the one guy. Yeah. But Drew Doughty's injury was so freakish. If you watch that play over and over again, that puck battle will happen. I don't know how many times in a game, and nothing ever happens. So I respected what Stan Bowman said. The minute you start thinking about injuries is likely when you start to get injured.
Yeah, and I think there's a huge dose of recency bias here in all these people that are all of a sudden saying, cut the preseason down to 3 games. I read today that the Board of Governors, they are knocking around the thought of making it an 84-game season from 82, and I think going to 4 preseason games, right? They're talking about that. Frankly, that's all that's going to do is just cost all the Ben Gleasons are going to lose their games. Connor McDavid ain't losing any games, right? The top guys aren't losing any games. If Leon Draisaitl wants 4 games, he'll play in every one, and that means, James Hamlin's not going to get near the games that he did get. So I'm with you, though, on the injury thing. I think that there's just happens to be a bunch of them this year. It's a fluke thing, and I wouldn't overreact to it, frankly. Let me finish on this. If Connor McDavid says, I want X amount of games, he gets X amount of games. Who's telling, or Leon Draisaitl, or Matt Tkachuk, or Quinn Hughes, who's telling those guys how many games they need? I think you ask those guys how many games they need.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Now, if you go down to a 4 preseason game, I bet you guys will play 2 or 3. I don't think anybody would play all 4. That would be my guess. I wonder they would training camp might start, 5 days later than it normally would, right? You probably would need 3 weeks of camp. Players would be like, oh my God, 4 games in 3 weeks.
No, hang on. Let's start it at the same time and end the season 10 days earlier. How about that?
That would be smart. Yeah, that's fair. So you'd start the regular season like in the end of September. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a big dream. We all know the reason they start the regular season so late is because all the American teams hate playing in September and they hate playing in October, right? College football's fresh. NFL's going. Baseball's in its best time of the year. All the Canadian teams that started September 15th. It's the American teams. They don't want to play in October, so that's why our season starts so late. And frankly, Jay, I'll be really surprised if that ever changes.
Okay, yeah, we'll see about that. The Oilers tonight. Noah Philp, Spec. I'm going out today. I think Noah Philp's going to be on the opening night Raw. I think he's played that well. I really do.
Yep.
Now, obviously, there's the caveat. Now there's 2 games against NHL rosters. Maybe he would fall off. And to me, it's not about production. It's just about pace of play, face-offs, everything, how he's handled it. He'll see some NHL centerman tonight. So, I'm not expecting him to be 75%, but heck, the guy's 51 or 52. That's just fine. And just his size and speed and everything else, I think he's really earned a spot. And I'll be surprised if he takes a big step back here in the next 2 days. Are you at all surprised that Nurse is playing, but without Emberson?
Well, Emberson's played. What has Emberson played? He's played 3 games so far.
Yeah.
So I would say this to you. Yes, short answer. We've been talking all this time about Nurse and Emberson. Finally, Nurse is playing and Emerson's not playing. That's kind of goofy for sure. But I think what that tells me is Nurse is going to play. I think Nurse will play both games. I think that Emberson, they're giving whoever else is playing tonight a shot, and Emberson is scheduled to play the last game in Vancouver. And this tells me if Nurse couldn't play in Vancouver with Emberson would be playing tonight. So I'll predict right now that Nurse and Emberson are up in the last game of the preseason.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier too. That's kind of how I see it playing out for sure. You look at Seattle spec, and I go up and down their lineup, and they got a lot of NHL veterans. They just don't have any difference makers on that team, and their only chance, I think, their chance of making the playoffs improve because of the Drew Doughty injury, because it might bring LA a little closer to them.
Yeah, okay. That's going to help all the fringe teams in the Pacific are going to benefit that way. I think you're right. When I look at Seattle, I mean, let's face it, they have trouble scoring. They don't score enough. They don't have big name difference makers. When Beniers took a step back last year, they didn't count on that, and that they were counting on some big production from him. They didn't get it. And that really hurt them. So, yes, I'm not sure why they can't land a free agent there. It's a beautiful city to play in. It's an exciting sort of newish.
They got two big free agents. The problem is it's just not difference makers. Like Stevenson's a good player, right? I like Brandon Montour, but they're like the elite of the elite rarely get to free agency anyway.
Yeah, this is true. But they didn't, anyway, I just would think that I think they do. They need somebody. I don't know where they're going to get them because they're not going to draft in the top 10 anytime soon. So if they're going to find an elite top 6, top 3, a top line player who can fill the net, it's going to have to be as a free agent or I guess in a trade, but those guys don't get traded much. So they're kind of, they've only been around a short time, but they're kind of in that mushy middle. They got to find their way out here before they turn into the Calgary Flames.
Huh. Yeah, well, that is the hard part, right? To be in NHL purgatory where you're not bad enough to get a great pick, you're not good enough to compete. It is no one wants to live there. And I know Oilers fans at the time they were like, "This is the worst." When you suck for they did, but now you reap the benefits of it. There's teams that just kind of sit in the middle, like Buffalo. Right now they've had a few top picks, but not many, and that's their problem, right? Columbus, and then or you could be Detroit and just never have any luck at the lottery. So
yeah, there's that. I mean, I'd say to you, Buffalo's had some top picks. They haven't, they've had Dahlen and they've had Power, and they've had some high picks. They had Eichel.
Yeah.
I'm talking a team like Calgary that doesn't even draft barely in the top 10 ever. They've just sat there at 11, 12, 13, and 14 for literally most of 40 years. Like, go back on the Flames since they won their cup in '89. And this isn't me just criticizing Calgary because they're Calgary. They've been stuck in that spot for so long. And frankly, they haven't accomplished anything. They haven't got out of the first round, I think, once in 30 years or something. So, yes, you don't want to be that if you're Seattle. You got to guard against it. It's pretty tough to go south. You always try to go north. It's pretty tough to all of a sudden say, we got to go get a top 3 pick and tank. But they got to do something because they're kind of in that spot for sure.
Spec, what'd you make of the Jays today?
Disappointing. Someone should have held up a big mirror at that press conference. Don't ask a question. Just hold up a giant mirror.
Well, the worst was when they were asked about how much is on management, he quickly said, well, injuries. And then all it takes is 2 seconds to look up, and because now baseball, everything's tracked, and they track the importance of injuries. The Jays were 24th, and first is like the worst injuries that impact your team. The Jays were 24th.
Right.
Their injuries weren't nearly as impactful as the management claimed, so they fire their assistant pitching coach. They get rid of their hitting coach.
Right. Assistant. They moved on Mattingly from around somewhere else.
Yeah, just a different chair in the clubhouse. But I'll be honest, I kind of expected this to happen. I didn't think they were gonna like that in Toronto. They just feel that those guys can do no wrong. I don't get it.
I'm not sure. I mean, I work for the company that owns the Blue Jays, and I sure do question, the level of expectation on those guys. Like, I will say this: the Blue Jays are a top 10 spending team in the league pretty much every year. So they're giving those guys the tools to build a good team. They are. And I would like to see from my employers a little bit less patience. Listen, they had Anthopoulos, right? Mm-hmm. They had a young, smart, and Canadian kid running their team, and they wouldn't pay him, and they let him go. And all he's done is build fantastic teams in LA and Atlanta. Wherever he is, they win.
Yeah.
They went to these two guys that never won jack you-know-what in Cleveland. And what are they doing in Toronto? They're not winning jack there either. So, yeah, I'm cleaning house if I own the team. But, sorry, pal, I know the email of the guy that owns the team, but I'm not going to use it.
We had G. Roy Simon on the show earlier today, and I just asked him flat out about Trey Ford, and he goes, well, we're going with the more consistent quarterback. And they've been pushing out that narrative. So I took the 30 seconds again that it takes to go find statistics because if people want to use them, I'm like, okay, let's use them. So Trey Ford's first 3 games, he completed 34 of 43 passes, 79%, 469 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Then he had a bad game against Winnipeg. That's not inconsistent. That's a young guy having a tough game. And, your veteran did even worse in the first half. 7 series, a grand total of 38 passing yards, and they were getting crushed 34-3 through the first 7 series of that game. They couldn't stay on the field. Your defense is gassed. And you're going to tell me that the young quarterback is too inconsistent because of one game? Nothing matches it. It doesn't make sense.
So how is G-Roy on this whole thing? What's like
when I asked him, Spec, I said, so what part of his game is inconsistent? Well, I'm not going to go into it. He's just inconsistent. What?
Yeah. It really smells like, as a guy that's been around some teams, it really smells like something's cooking around that team that we don't know about. I don't know whether there's an issue with Trey Ford and the coach or the team or something. I mean, you can't look at those 2 Winnipeg games and tell me that Trey Ford, he took his team into the third quarter, tied 10-all. Like, at least he had some drives. They fumbled some balls. That's not bad quarterbacking. He fumbled one. I think the running back fumbled one, as I recall.
Yep.
There was an interception that got tipped. Somebody picked it off. So my point is, he gave you a chance to beat Winnipeg. They were right in that game till late. MBT never gave you a chance to get out of the first quarter. They had 40 points in the second quarter, 30 points in the second quarter, Winnipeg, because they couldn't get Edmonton couldn't stay on the field offensively. So I hear you, man. You and me are in the same, preaching to the same choir here. I just think there's got to be something we don't know, because G-Roy's no dummy, and there's something he's not telling us.
Spec, enjoy the game tonight. We will chat about it tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, Jake.
There you go. It's Mark Spector, the Spec Report, brought to you by GS Construction. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you. Sports 1440, Orders Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. We got lots and lots of text to get to. Ian Hunter will also join us. There's been some perplexing management decisions today in the sporting world. We'll break down another one of those. The Gregor Show, Sports 1440.
Tire, we love jingles. Get up to 25% off select tires
Until October 19th.
Plus a bonus $50 off any service of $150.
Restrictions apply.
Book online today. Fountain Tire, we're on this road together.
You got a go-to coffee spot, a trusted barber, even a lucky game day jersey. But when it's about looking your absolute best, there's only one name you need. Mr. Dirk. Family run since 1939. We're experts in crafting impeccable tailor-made suits and offering a wide variety of everyday styles. Pair that with personalized one-on-one fittings and the convenience of on-site tailoring. Mr. Dirk elevates your style game. Visit our Edmonton store or explore MrDirk.com. Score big on style with Mr. Dirk.
You'll see us digging holes. No, we're not looking for buried treasure. You'll see us digging trenches as well. And no, we're not building a fort. We're GS Construction, and you'll see us in neighborhoods throughout the Edmonton area. So what are we doing? GS Construction provides rehabilitation and upgrade services to Edmonton and surrounding communities. Some of our underground utilities have served us for years and are past their useful lives. We replace them, so they're around for years to come. Find out more at gsconstruction.ca.
Ain't it beautiful? There's electricity in the air. Carrie Dahl here for Volvo of Edmonton, where the Volvo XC40 and C40 fully electric vehicle is now in stock, along with a great selection of Volvo T8 hybrid models. Experience the trusted Volvo quality and technology to power into tomorrow at Volvo Cars Edmonton, Canada's only 12-time Volvo Excellence Award winners. Experience the difference.
Volvo of Edmonton.
This week at the Brick, when you buy more, you save more. Shop amazing savings throughout the store, like up to 30% off furniture, up to 40% off mattresses, and up to $500 off select major kitchen appliances. Plus, when you buy more, we give more. A portion of our sales will be donated to your local Children's Hospital Foundation, helping to transform children's lives with every purchase you make. Some exclusions apply. See in store or online at thebrick.com for details. The Brick, saving you more.
No matter where your potential customers live, no matter what they watch, read, or listen to, you need a marketing plan that connects with them. Let the marketing experts at Stingray Media Solutions create a turnkey advertising strategy for your business, including radio and TV and out-of-home advertising, social and search ads, plus the creative and production. Find out the most cost-effective ways to reach your target audience and grow your business. Get started now at stingraymediasolutions.com.
Let's play ball.
'29. Well, I'm not sure how many fans were singing that song in Toronto today. There's been lots of frustration in Toronto for a while in regards to their management. And today management comes out and says no changes in management. 9th highest paid team, 7th worst record in baseball. But it was the assistant pitching coach and the hitting coach and the field coordinator who are clearly the ones who are at fault for this, because they got let go today. So there you have it. It's kind of an odd one. Let's go in the room now, brought to you by Action Electrical, where I'll say this: no dysfunction there. Great company, 50 years running. You know what they instilled last year? Everybody at Action Electrical gets the day off on their birthday. And people love it. So extra day off just for being born at actionelectrical.net. As we'll talk a little Jays right now with Ian Hunter from Jays Nation. Ian, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Yeah, doing well. How are you, Jason?
I'm good. I have to say, I'm not really surprised by today's announcement. I just never got the sense that organization felt like the guys at the top were at fault, even though if you take a step back, it definitely looks like they played a big factor in the struggles, and really how it's been a consistent downhill struggle the last few years for the Jays.
Right, for sure. I mean, we look at this regime of Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins. They'll be entering their 10th season at the helm of the Blue Jays next year. And, you know, while they've made the playoffs 3 out of the last 5 years, they still haven't won a playoff game. And this year they kind of took a step backwards. And I always kind of assumed that Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins especially probably were coming back next year. I thought if there was a time to make a change, it would have been at the end of last season, which was a a huge debacle, top to bottom, from manager to general manager. But the fact that they are kind of shuffling around the deck chairs with the coaches, as you mentioned, I don't know how much of an impact that's going to have, but it sounds like for the most part, at the top, things are going to be the same next year, for better or worse.
Now, what do you make of the decision, and how do you think they can make it so it is the right decision?
I mean, I think I wrote about this earlier this week for Blue Jays Nation. I think this offseason is probably the most critical one for this current regime of the Blue Jays front office. Going back to 2019, that was like the end of the rebuilding years. And that's really when we started to see them pump money into payroll, signing Hyunjin Ryu. After that, George Springer, Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios. So, from the ownership level, the commitment is there, but it's last year, I think they kind of doubled down on the run prevention thing where they invested heavily in pitching and defense. They didn't really go after many. Their biggest offseason acquisition was signing Justin Turner. With all due respect to Justin Turner, I mean, that's not going to move the needle very much. So I think they have to be ultra aggressive this offseason, both in free agency and trade. I know it's easier said than done, but there are so many holes they have to plug this offseason. They need a third baseman, a left fielder, 2 to 3 relievers, some starting depth pitching. And, they don't have an infinite payroll like the New York Yankees. There is a budget for them to work with. So they're going to have to prioritize where they go in the offseason. I think if magically they somehow go out and sign Juan Soto, I think that will make a lot of people forget what happened this season. I don't expect that to happen, but shopping in the middle tier of free agents and, plugging those holes, I think that will do a lot to kind of tide over the fan base, at least until spring training.
What happens with Bichette?
It was a really weird year for him. It may have been linked due to his injuries stemming from last August. He really hasn't been quite the same since. And, he comes back, he rehabs, gets into a few games, and then goes down with a finger injury. Of course, why not? Because everything that can go wrong has gone wrong for the Blue Jays this offseason. I think he probably comes back next year. I know there were some rumors that the Blue Jays were shopping him either last year or this earlier this year. But at this point, you're kind of selling low on Bichette. You're getting pennies on the dollar for him. So I think you probably bring him back next season. And he's in a contract year, so he'll be motivated. And it wouldn't shock me if he walks as a free agent next year. I kind of feel like there's really only so much money in the kitty to re-sign either Vladdy or Bichette, and all indications seem to be that probably is going to happen for Guerrero rather than Bo.
Yeah, well, because Guerrero needs a contract this year, right? Bo's got one more year. Is that correct?
They're both free agents at the end of next year. So
next year.
The deal doesn't have to get done this offseason, but it would be one piece of business to kind of really help prop that window of contention open if they get at least one of those guys signed this winter.
So if you look at their roster right now, last offseason, it seemed their entire focus was on Shohei Ohtani, even though most people thought they were just a pawn in the negotiations, which it turned out they were. What do you see as the top few priorities for the Jays, and how realistic are they that they will land those players?
Yeah, I think two big buckets they need to address is the starting lineup and the bullpen. And one area that kept coming back time and time again that Mark Shapiro, Ross Atkins, and John Schneider said they really didn't expect things to go as sideways as it did was in the bullpen. So fortifying that reliever core, going out and signing free agents. There's a ton of relievers out there. There's guys like veterans, Joe Kelly, Paul Sewald, Adam Ottavino. I mean, really, you pick any of those guys and they would probably be much better than what the Blue Jays were trotting out at the end of the season. From there, third base would be a nice place to upgrade, but there's not a ton of guys out there on the free agent market other than Alex Bregman. So maybe you dip into the farm system or package together some players to make a trade there. And the outfield is probably the clearest area of improvement for the Jays, where free agency, you could really pick up some guys there. There's Anthony Santander, the Orioles, Tyler O'Neill, Canadian with the Boston Red Sox this year. They could even re-sign Teoscar Hernandez. There's quite a few options out there. And then if you want to get creative in the infield, maybe you, with Bo Bichette's contract coming up, maybe you go and sign another shortstop like Willie Adames, place him at second base next year, and he becomes your next shortstop of the future. So, yeah, I think those are two areas that they really need to invest heavily in. But to me, it's the starting lineup. You really need big bats, protection for Vladdy, a top of the order bat. Ideally, a left-handed hitter would be nice.
Oh yeah, no question. What about in the organization? We did see a lot of young guys get opportunities here. Obviously, on the mound, I think it's clear they got a pretty good young starter, you would think. Anyway, what about all the young guys that they had, position players, batting? How many of them do you think are going to be starters next year?
Yeah, I think just by virtue of the fact that the Blue Jays traded away so many of their players at the trade deadline, a lot of these young players got a lot of runway at the end of the season, where normally in a contending year, you might not see players like that so much. So to me, guys I want to see back on the team next season in a full-time capacity probably would be Spencer Horwitz, a guy who emerged probably as one of the better hitters on the Blue Jays this season, a left-handed bat. The thing is, his native position is first base, so there's a bit of a logjam between him and Vladdy there. Will Wagner, the guy they picked up in the Yusei Kikuchi trade with the Astros, his bat to ball skills are tremendous. Unfortunately, he ended the season with an injury, but I think he probably has an inside track on one of the infield jobs next year. And then looking further down, maybe someone like Addison Barger, his raw tools are incredible. He's got a tremendous arm. His bat speed is ferocious. So I think having him as a 25th, 26th guy, that would be half decent. And, if Ernie Clement's back as a bench bat, I'd be fine with that. Joey Loperfido, to me, I feel like either one or two of these guys that we saw at the end of the season, they're probably going to be packaged together in some sort of trade, maybe for a reliever, because they do kind of have a lot of, I want to say redundant players, but a lot of guys with similar skill sets, all kind of at the same level, like just barely above major league level skills, not a ton of upside. So I think that's why I kind of think maybe some of these guys like a Loperfido, probably not Will Wagner, but a Loperfido, maybe an Addison Barger, maybe those are some of the guys that get traded off the roster for additional pieces.
Yeah. If you quickly to look at the playoffs, you see Detroit, they already are through. Now KC and Baltimore. Baltimore's in a must-win situation. Is there a team you like best to win the World Series?
I mean, from a story perspective, you can't get much better than the Detroit Tigers, right? If you're someone who has no allegiance to any fans in Major League Baseball right now, I would say the Tigers are your team. They had 0.2% playoff odds on August 10th. Back on September 12th, they had a 7.5% chance of making the playoffs. So I don't want to say they're a team of destiny, but it's been an incredible story to watch. And then other than that, it's the Dodgers, right? Like every year it seems like they add another piece. And last year they went and got Shohei Ohtani to make their team even better. But they got swept in the playoffs last year by the D-backs. So is adding Ohtani finally the guy who puts them over the hump this year? And then the Yankees, they always seem to be a bit of a weird team to me. It feels like they're getting older, but yet they always have depth pieces that really contribute. So it wouldn't shock me if the Yankees make it into the ALCS this year. But if I had to pick one team to go all the way, I feel like the Phillies are just a really well-balanced team from starting pitching to their starting lineup 1 through 9, and their bullpen is really good too. So if I had to pick one as a World Series pick, it would probably be the Phillies. I know that's not a shocker, but for an enjoyment, for pure enjoyment, I would say the Tigers.
Awesome stuff, Ian. Really appreciate it, man. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
There you go. That's Ian Hunter from Blue Jays Nation. The Jays making no changes in management today. Despite being the ninth highest payroll, they had the seventh worst record in the major leagues of baseball. We'll come back. Lots of texts about the Oilers Seattle game tonight. We'll get to the lineups and my bold prediction for the regular season. Coming up next on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
A premier hockey solution with a clear path for long-term development is proud to be entering its 8th season of independent borderless hockey, featuring provincial and cross-province competition with showcase-style regular season gameplay and a strong commitment to individual skill development. It's an attractive option for those seeking family life balance. The Hockey Super League offers opportunities for both male and female athletes born between 2012 and 2017. Visit hockeysuperleague.com for more information.
Ready to tackle your toughest tasks? Edmonton Kubota has you covered with the all-new M8 Series tractor with powerful 181 and 201 horsepower engines, Cummins power, and loader readiness. It's built to handle any challenge. And now, for a limited time, get a free 4-year extended warranty when you drive off with an M8 Series tractor. Don't miss out on this unbeatable offer. Visit Edmonton Kubota today and power up your productivity. Edmonton Kubota, where power meets performance.
Carve out for a cause at the 6th annual Jason Gregor Pizza Takeout presented by Swift. Thursday, October 24th at the Canadian Ice House. Indulge in unlimited pizza while raising some dough for Kids Sport. Vote for your favorite slice to crown the People's Choice Awards winners. Don't miss Edmonton's biggest pizza party with Gregor broadcasting live. Tickets are $60 or $200 for a group of 4. Adults only. Buy your tickets today. For more details, see jasongregorpizzapickout.com.
Hockey is back, and Play Alberta, Alberta's #1 sportsbook and official partner of the Edmonton Oilers, has you covered with bigger offers, boosted odds, live betting, player props, and more. New to Play Alberta? New players now receive $200 in free bets just for signing up. You already play? Get a $10 free bet for every $100 you bet. Every week, all season long. Visit playalberta.ca and make your picks today. Bonus terms and conditions apply.
I'm Colin Livingston, president of Cantork. Since 2016, we've been at the forefront of hydraulic torque wrenches in Canada. I'm delighted to share our latest venture, in-house production for quicker turnaround, superior quality, and heightened versatility. Experience excellence at Cantork.com.
Gateway Toyota treats us like we're precious gems.
Because that's what we are.
Every vehicle purchased from Gateway Toyota includes enrollment into their gem.
Sports 1440 is ready to talk hockey with you after every game this season. The post-game show with Andrew Walker. He's brought to you by the Ridge Social Eatery in St. Albert. Tune in after the next game.
Referral rewards
I feel like a gem.
at Gateway Toyota, just off Calgary Trail at Ellerslie Road.
I'm Rick Showers from No Bull RV, and the time to think about winterizing your RV is before the snow flies. There's a lot of steps you need to take to winterize your trailer or motorhome.
And you have to get every step right every single time. Right, Rick?
That's right, Bob, because if you make even a little mistake, you might not realize it till spring. By then, it's too late to fix what you got wrong.
Hey, Rick, do you winterize your own trailer?
Not anymore, Bob. I hired people who are smarter than me. Genius technicians who check every component. Dozens of systems to be maintained and protected. And today, we offer that service to you, starting at $99. Every winterization package comes with a full report in writing, so you know what to expect come spring. If you're confident to do it yourself, have at it. If you're like me and you'd rather have this done by somebody who knows what they're doing, then come to Noble, and we'll take care of you.
And that's Noble.
NoBullRV.ca.
546. We're 2 for 2. One of the Royals and the Tigers to win, and both have won, both winning both games on the road. Ooh. Now the New York Mets, they try to get the sweep on the road. And the Padres, who we also are rooting for. I don't have any real team I'm cheering for specific, but the Padres, what do I say? The Padres and the Tigers out of being the dream out of nowhere World Series for sure. But, it's the opening round. Obviously, you get to the big dogs in Cleveland and New York and Philly and LA the next round. But, and Casey's been good. The Tigers they're hot right now. And I wonder in baseball, like those teams just aren't used to sitting out that long in baseball. I always wonder how much that's a factor, right? Like in the NHL, you will sit out 3 or 4 times or 3 or 4 days between games sometimes. Baseball, never. And to have that much time off in MLB is quite rare. So now, if you're injured, it helps you. But I just wonder. I saw Mookie Betts on Jimmy Fallon last night, and he talked about for him. And I liked how he worded it. He says the off season's right around the corner, and so now you have this 5 days off. If you even think kind of you get into that off season mode, he thinks you're screwed. So you got to stay around. He goes, man, I'm at the diamond all the time. I'm just trying to stay in the game cons. I think it's something that's unique to baseball because it's the only league that plays pretty much every day, right? Like you get maybe one day, a week off or 3 days of the month kind of thing. And so to suddenly have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 5 days off in a row, it's very rare.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, that comes at the All-Star break. And for a lot of these guys, they're going to the game. So, and then having to go right back into playoff mode, right? Going up against team, whether, it's going to be the Padres or whoever might be the Mets, like those teams are going to be ready to go. They just played 2 high intensity games, potentially 3. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting adjustment. I don't think it should be too tough though. I mean, the Dodgers at this point, such a veteran team, they've gone through this before. I think they know what they have to do to make sure they're locked in once the first pitch is thrown. But it is a little bit of an adjustment because in the NFL, like a bye week for the top team, they've already gone through that once before, and they're used to it. This is a little bit of different. So staying locked in is big in baseball.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So we'll see where that goes. 833-401-1440. You can text us in our inbox, 833-401-1440. Your partner in power since 1976 for all your electrical gear. You can get it online 24/7 at ewel.ca. And we have loads of tech. Hey, guys, is there a maximum time a player like Kane can be on IR before he needs to be moved to LTIR from Mark? Nope. You can stay on IR as long as you want because when you're on IR, you count against the salary cap. There's no benefit to a team having a player on IR. Right? It doesn't help you in any way. So usually when you're on there, you're on IR. You can't play for a week minimum, but obviously in Kane's place, he'll be there longer. You don't count on the roster, but you count against the salary cap. So there's very little benefit to a team to place. I guess if they thought you could hide a guy on there who didn't have an injury for an extended period of time, and so you didn't want to put him on waivers, that's the only benefit I can think of. So there's no timeline as far as I'm aware. I've never seen one at all. Boys, do you think of the shortened preseason? Yeah, I'd be all for it. 4 or 5 games. Especially if you're going to lengthen the regular season a bit. I see no reason why you wouldn't want to do it. So, hey guys, so the genius of the Oilers is to let Nurse play one whole game with the rookie, then penciled in as his partner all year. I don't know what is wrong with people who make decisions for this team, but that makes no sense. From T. Well, T, we outlined a few things. They don't want to. They kind of have a number of games they want guys to play. And Emberson, if he plays tonight, and then he's up to 5. And so they didn't want it. That's part of it. Now, Emberson isn't a rookie, just for the record, doesn't have a lot of NHL experience. He's not a rookie because he's already played over 25 games in one NHL season. So he's not a rookie. Is it ideal that they don't play more together? No. Have they practiced together lots? Yes. Leon Draisaitl is a big believer that, even Darnell Nurse said it, you know what, you can learn more from practice where you do so many reps after reps after reps of getting used to a guy. So now game pace is a little bit different. That's more maybe on the individual of, reacting and all that stuff. But I don't know, like, how hard would it be for Nurse and Emerson? It's a right shot, it's a left shot. You play your side, I'll play my side. Nurse likes to transport the puck at times. Emerson, more of a passing defenseman than he is a puck transporter. So, you might have the odd bang play where maybe knowing where the guy is could help. I think that's fair. But you could play 2 preseason games, and that's not going to make it any better than 1. So I don't know if it's that egregious of a decision at all. Hey, Greg's, the 84 games works perfectly for scheduling. No, I understand that, right? Because then you play, what do they play? 32 games against the other division, right? Twice against those 16 teams. So there's 32 games. So that leaves you currently 50 games. If you play every team in the other team in your conference, there's another 24 games, and that leaves 28 right now leaves 26. But here's the thing. Even before they went to 84, you know what the easy fix would have been for the NHL? Because you say that regular season matters more. Everybody in your division should have been playing 4 times. So that's 28 games. So that leaves 22 against the Central Division, for instance, for Edmonton. All you do is you play 6 teams 3 times and 2 teams twice. And you rotate it. And so this year it's Minnesota and Chicago. The next year it's St. Louis and Utah. The next year it's Colorado and Dallas. And then the next year it's Winnipeg and whichever other Central team I'm missing off the top of my head. And it'd be that simple. So I find it odd that you have to play 3 games against the Central, which means then there's 1 less game against 2 teams in your own division. Like, why you're playing Vancouver and Calgary 3 times, but you're also playing St. Louis and Dallas the same number? It's odd to me. I don't get it. It'd be an easy fix, but they probably won't do it because they've never done it to this date. I don't get why. And I've asked the question, I can never get a good answer because it's very simple. It makes sense. Anyway, enjoy Seattle and Oilers tonight. It's not on television, but you can watch it online at Oilers Plus if you so choose. Baseball playoffs. So we'll recap the game tomorrow. Noah Philp, we get 1 step closer, cracking the NHL roster. I think so for Noah Philp. Nurse makes his debut in the preseason tonight. Stuart Skinner starts in goal. The top 3 lines are all together. Let's get to Connor Halley, a Sports 1440 update brought to you by Booster Juice. Stop in at Booster Juice. They are celebrating their 25th anniversary. Huge milestone. The original, the marathon, and the very popular Ornsicle are back only at Booster Juice. Good night.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
Major League Baseball playoffs 2 days in. 2 teams are done. The Orioles eliminating the Royals eliminate the Orioles, winning 2-1 earlier today. The Tigers do the same to the Astros. They win 5-2. Out in Milwaukee right now, Brewers and Mets tied at 1 apiece in the bottom of the first. The Mets have a 1-0 series lead. At 6:30, the Padres will host the Braves as the Padres look to wrap that one up tonight in San Diego. The Toronto Blue Jays are staying the course in the 2025 season as both GM Ross Atkins and manager John Schneider will return to the same roles. The team added that Don Mattingly would shift, helping oversee the offense to a more traditional bench coaching role. Also announcing that they expect the payroll to remain the same range. It's game day. Edmonton Oilers in action tonight, taking on the Seattle Kraken down at Climate Pledge Arena. That one gets going just after 8 o'clock. You'll also have the Ducks and the Utah Hockey Club. The Jets hosting the Flames. 2 games going on right now after 20 minutes. Preds lead the Hurricanes 4-1, and the Lightning and Panthers scoreless. From the NFL, Cleveland Browns star running back Nick Chubb returned to practice today, the first time since his grotesque knee injury that ended his season just over a year ago. The 4-time Pro Bowl player likely not going to get going this weekend in Washington, but is expected to play this month. That's going to do it for us here on the Jason Gregor Show. Coming up next, we've got Fox Sports Radio, and then tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., it is the Kevin Carius Show with Carius and Donovan Paulson. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports